Chapter 1408. Then you can go to hell too. Yi Qin did not give him a chance to talk nonsense. He raised his hand and pointed forward. As soon as this finger appeared, heaven and earth rumbled. In the turbulent void, a huge, crystal-clear, resplendent pillar-like finger appeared out of thin air, forming a monstrous pressure that annihilated everything. It was the Greenwood Emperor's finger. Stop. I won't care about this anymore. At that moment, the expression of Elder Tian Kuei, who was originally extremely gloomy, changed drastically. After inhaling a breath of cold air, his figure instantly disappeared between heaven and earth. Initially, he thought that Yi Qian would definitely be exhausted after using such terrifying divinity consecutively. Coupled with the tempting promise of the ethereal patriarch, he could not help but step forward to protect the ethereal patriarch. As soon as he left, the ethereal patriarch's primordial spirit was completely exposed to Yi Qian's Greenwood Emperor's finger. Stop right now. Almost at that moment, several figures with powerful auras rushed over from afar. The person in the lead was a soul formation powerhouse. Yi Qian ignored those words. With a finger, he crushed the ethereal patriarch's soul directly under his unwilling and fearful gaze. Everyone that was paying attention to this scene fell into a deathly silence at this moment. Before this, who would have thought that the outcome would be like this? Yi Qian killed 2 early-stage soul formation powerhouses consecutively and even forced the patriarch of Tian Kuei to flee? Was this the legend that had fallen in many people's eyes? Had he really fallen? 9 dragons, Bei's Feng Mingwei and his grandson, seemed to have lost their souls as they watched this scene in disbelief. How is this possible? Everyone's expressions froze at the same time. Someone shivered and could not help but mutter, "Mad Southerny has once again used blood to announce his return." Unfortunately, such a terrifying existence doesn't have much time left. However, most people felt that it was a pity. At the same time, Yi Qian's face turned paler in the air. It was as if a gust of wind could blow him away. It seemed like his body's condition was worsening. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 3 old men in black shot over and landed before Yi Qian. The leader, a malicious old man with high cheekbones, glared at Yi Qian and said coldly, "How dare you, Mad Southerny? How dare you disobey my orders?" The 3 of them had come with the intention of protecting the ethereal old ancestor. Never would they have imagined that they would still be a step too late. Yi Qian stood still and took a good look at the 3 of them coldly. "Who are you guys? Are you also here to die?" "Bastard!" A person behind the malicious old man stood up and said coldly, "We are from the Extraterrestrial Civilization Judicial Department. We are responsible for negotiating and handling the conflicts between the extraterrestrial sects and the cultivators on Earth." At this point, he couldn't help but snort coldly. "You killed people from the foreign sects without the permission of the Foreign Civilization Judicial Department. You disregarded the rules. How should you be punished?" Yi Qian responded calmly when he heard that. He looked at the 3 of them as if he was sneering. "So be it. What are you guys going to do about it?" What an arrogant brat. The malicious old man's gaze turned cold as he took over the topic. "Mad Southerny, you violated the rules of the Extraterrestrial Civilization Judicial Department. I'm informing you now. Come with me." The 2 people behind him charged at Yi Qian as they spoke. "You guys want to capture me?" Yi Qian's gaze turned cold all of a sudden. "Are you guys forcing me to become your enemy for a few enemies from the outer world?" The Extraterrestrial Civilization Judicial Department was obviously created by the higher-ups. The starting point was good, but he did not expect the higher-ups to use it on him, Yi Qian. At the same time, the Patriarch of Hell shot over and looked at the 3 of them coldly. "I'd like to see if you guys have the ability to take him away today." Boom! In an instant, a terrifying pressure erupted from the Patriarch of Hell's body. The pressure caused the 3 of them to take a step back, subconsciously. Early stage God, transformation stage. The malicious old man's pupils constricted violently. When he looked at the patriarch of hell again, his gaze was filled with fear. Who are you? Are you sure you want to stop the extraterrestrial civilization judicial department? Clearly, even he did not expect Yi Qin to have a God transformation stage powerhouse by his side. Who is the patriarch? You, 3 pieces of trash, don't have the right to know. The patriarch of hell smiled sinisterly. The malicious old man's expression changed a few times before he sneered. Mad Southerny, are you sure you want to go against the extraterrestrial civilization judicial department today? At this point, he threatened, I forgot to remind you that there are master stage or even perfect stage God transformation stage existences in the extraterrestrial civilization judicial department. So what? An undetectable gleam flashed through Yi Chen's eyes. Even the old ancestor of hell's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. He did not expect there to be such a terrifying expert up there. Nothing. The malicious old man said in a deep voice, I know that the 3 of us can't take you down if we fight you today. However, the extraterrestrial judicial department will definitely not stop after this. At that time, you'll be going against the higher-ups. So be it. The patriarch of hell did not mind. The elder ancestor wasn't from Earth, so he didn't have the slightest sense of immersion in everything on Earth. In his opinion, the universe was so big that it could accommodate him anywhere. Another person frowned and said, We're only asking Mad Southerny to go over for investigation. When the matter is investigated, we'll definitely do it according to the rules. Not bad. The malicious old man looked at Yi Qin fixedly. Mad Southerny, don't forget that you're also a Chinese. Why would we help the enemy from the outside world? All right, I'll go with you. Yi Qin took a deep breath in and said, But I need to report to my family. Of course, we will wait for you. The sinister-looking old man nodded. After saying that, Yi Chen's body flashed, and he dashed toward 9 Dragons Bay immediately. The patriarch of hell caught up with him and said with a frown, Fellow Yi, they're no match for you at all. Why? Cathay has changed, Yi Qin sighed softly and said, I've become unfamiliar. I think something's wrong with someone. I must figure out what's wrong. The patriarch of hell was right. He had even destroyed the immortal palace, let alone a mere extraterrestrial judicial department. However, the latter was an official organization after all. Whether it was Old Qin, Neo Qing Shan, Old Master Gu, or the rest, they all believed in loyalty. If he were to go against the higher-ups, these people probably wouldn't want to see it. The patriarch of hell sighed softly and stopped trying to persuade him. At 9 Dragons Bay, everyone was looking forward to it. Yi Hai, Su Yuhan, and the rest heaved a sigh of relief after seeing Yi Chen return safely. Meanwhile, Fong Mingwei and his grandson did not dare to look him in the eye. Yi Chen walked over and walked to his parents while holding Su Yuhan's hand. He said while smiling, Dad, Mom, I have something to do. I'll be back soon. End of this chapter. Chapter 1409. Why do you have to leave at this time? Yi Hai frowned, but he could not bear to ask further. Forget it. Come back quickly. Today is your and Yuhan's wedding day. Don't let Yuhan wait too long. All right. Yi Qin smiled and turned around to look at Su Yuhan. He whispered into her ear, Wait for me, honey. I'll be back soon. I definitely won't delay our wedding night. Su Yuhan's pretty face heated up immediately. Clearly, she could not take such direct words. However, she still nodded heavily. Hubby, I'll wait for you. She seemed to find it difficult to say the word hubby, so her nasal voice was dragged out like a soft hum. Yi Qin felt like his bones had gone soft when he heard the word hubby. It was the first time Su Yuhan had called him that. In his excitement, he could not help but lower his head to kiss the beauty's red lips. However, he only tasted it lightly, like a dragonfly skimming the water. Patriarch Wu Shuang, protect Yuhan and my parents the entire time after I leave. If necessary, inform the Patriarch of Green Spirit and the rest. After secretly sending voice transmissions to Yi Wushuang and the Patriarch of Hell through divine consciousness, Yi Qin took a step out and arrived 10,000 meters in the sky in the blink of an eye. With Yi Wushuang, the Patriarch of Hell, the Patriarch of Green Spirit, and 20 to 30 God transformation stage powerhouses, he was not worried about the safety of Su Yuhan and the rest. 10,000 meters in the sky, Yi Chen regained his cold expression. He glanced at the three of them and said, "Let's go." On the outskirts of the capital, thousands of kilometers away from Lin City, there was a dense forest that was controlled by the military. Although the forest was not big, it looked ordinary. However, when the old man stopped in his tracks and tossed out a token, the formation before Yi Chen changed all of a sudden. What he saw was a small world that seemed to have been opened up. Formation! Yi Chen's eyes flickered when he saw that it seems like China has achieved a lot of results in their research on formations. Could this formation have been obtained from some cave abode or ruin? Let's go. The old man led him into the brand new small world. At that moment, a strange gleam flashed through his eyes. Boom! However, after an earth-shattering noise, countless stone pillars suddenly appeared out of nowhere in the void. These stone pillars surrounded Yi Chen. Subsequently, they activated dazzling formation barriers that enveloped Yi Chen. A terrifying aura and vast energy spread out. From afar, it looked like a cage of heaven and earth. Before Yi Chen could speak, the sinister old man outside sneered and said, "Mad Southernie, you slaughtered the foreign sects without permission and affected the overall situation. According to the orders from above, you're to be suppressed here and sentenced to death within 3 days." However, to his surprise, Yi Chen, who was in the cage, was expressionless. He did not even react. He couldn't help but frown. "You're still so calm when you're about to die? I knew you'd be like this." Yi Chen looked at him as if he was mocking him. He shook his head slowly and said, "I have to say that you guys have disappointed me too much. The extreme disappointment is destruction. Shameless boasting." The sinister-looking old man could not help but scoff coldly. This formation was obtained from a prehistoric ruin in China. It once killed a perfected soul formation powerhouse from another world. You'll be completely refined in less than 3 days if you stay here. At this point, he said with a spurious smile, "Similarly, these 3 days are also your chance. If you're willing to tell us where you went 17 years ago and why you have such a cultivation base, perhaps we'll cripple your cultivation base at most and not kill you." "So you guys are coveting my fortuitous encounter?" Yi Chen chuckled. "Very well, very well. I'll give you guys 3 days too. If the person in charge of the Judgment Division doesn't kowtow to me within 3 days, you'll have to bear the consequences. Just stay here." The sinister old man sneered and turned around to leave. At the same time, a piece of heavy news was announced by the Foreign Judgment Division. Mad Southernie has been sent to prison for slaughtering people from the foreign sects. As soon as the news spread, the entire China was shaken. Yi Hai and Wu Lan fainted on the spot, but Su Yuhan was exceptionally strong. She took care of the 2 children and the 2 old people at the same time. Yi Wen and the rest of the girls ran to comfort her. Unexpectedly, Su Yuhan smiled lightly. "My husband can even destroy the mortal palace, let alone a mere foreign Judgment Division's prison." Only then did the girls feel relieved. "Are you kidding me? Mad Southernie killed an enemy from the outer realm, so why is he locked up? Also, what the hell is this Foreign Judgment Division? You guys probably don't know about this. It's said that this Foreign Judgment Division is the most mysterious organization in China. All the people in it are extremely powerful. Mad Southernie is doomed to fall into this tough guy's hands." However, the outside world was in an uproar. Countless people were discussing it, and they even posted their orders online. In Beijing, the Foreign Judgment Division's office was tightly surrounded by a sea of people. All sorts of curses caused many staff in the office to panic. Amidst the crowd, an old man about 100 years old stood by the side of the road, trembling. The people from the foreign sects have killed so many cultivators in China. It's fine if the Foreign Judgment Division doesn't care, but they even captured their own people. What's going on? I'd like to ask, what's the logic behind this? After saying that, he took off his shirt with trembling hands and pointed at the densely packed bullet holes on it, saying, "This old man is 120 years old this year, and all the bullet holes on it were left by the Japanese back then. Is your extraterritorial judicial department going to arrest me as well?" The onlookers were all solemn. This was a veteran who had shed his blood for the country and the people. Now that he was about to die, he was standing up for mad Southerny. Behind him was an endless dragon of people. The average age of these people was over 100 years old. "We're not convinced. Get the person in charge to come out and give us an explanation." In the Foreign Judgment Division's office, the sinister old man watched this scene coldly. Let them cause trouble. Just ignore them. They'll leave when mad Southerny dies. At the eastern border, amidst the endless mountains, there was a military encampment. It was the largest military camp. At that moment, there was a middle-aged man in military uniform. The middle-aged man had long golden hair. Although his face was handsome, there was a lot of vicissitudes and determination on his face. "Good, very good." The middle-aged man slammed the telegram in his hand on the table and flew into a rage. The Foreign Judgment Division has been going overboard in recent years. Now, they've even gone against the will of the people and captured Brother Yi. A man in military uniform asked, "General Luo, what should we do?" General Luo suddenly shouted, "Everyone, stand up!" Boom! In an instant, the hundreds of generals who were sitting upright in front of him stood up in unison. Their movements were orderly and powerful, like flowing water. Since some people are ignorant, let's teach them a lesson so that they know Brother Ye's position in the hearts of these soldiers. General Luo ordered, "Send a secret message to the Foreign Judgment Division. Release Brother Yi immediately. Otherwise, the millions of soldiers of the eastern camp will retreat immediately. If we release Brother Yi 2 hours later, our millions of soldiers will retreat 100 kilometers. Why the hell are we still guarding the eastern border? We're bathing in blood and disregarding life and death. Is it just to give these people a stable life? Yes." At the northern border, an urgent and ear-piercing voice suddenly broke the silence. "Gather! Everyone gather!" General Song has ordered that from now on, our northern army will retreat 100 kilometers every 2 hours. In a green brick courtyard at the western border, a loud laugh shook the world. I knew that Luo, Tianya, and Song Chia wouldn't be able to sit still. Since that's the case, our western territory can't miss this show either. The owner of the voice sneered. "Jeaner passed down my order. From now on, our Western Army will retreat 100 kilometers every 2 hours unless we receive a new order from me. At the same time, send a telegram to that bastard Xiong Yukai in the south. If he kneels down to the Foreign Judgment Division now. After this matter, the 3 of us will work together to chop off his head and use it as a stool." End of this chapter. Chapter 1410. On the second day of Yi Chen's imprisonment, more and more people gathered outside the capital's Foreign Adjudication Department. They protested and demanded Yi Chen's release. There were even conflicts. Fortunately, there were no deaths. The atmosphere in the Foreign Adjudication Department's office was terrifyingly silent. The Jinling Chamber of Commerce requests the release of mad Southern Yi. Otherwise, they will cut off all business with the Foreign Adjudication Department. The person in charge of the National Bank requests the release of mad Southern Yi. Otherwise, they will ask the Foreign Adjudication Department to repay the debt of 1 million spirit stones. Many people in the army have resigned. The sinister old man's face turned extremely grim when he heard the news from all directions. He did not expect Yi Chen's influence in China to be so terrifying. From the commoners to the business world, the political world, and the military, all the big shots demanded Yi Chen's release. Someone stammered, Old Man Yuan, what should we do now? Almost all the people at the bottom of the Foreign Adjudication Department were shocked by the commotion. After all, there had never been such a situation since the establishment of the Foreign Adjudication Department. You want the Foreign Adjudication Department to release him? Old Man Yuan smirked coldly. Just as he made up his mind, a subordinate walked over quickly with a phone and said in a trembling voice, Old Man Yuan, the Chief of Staff of the Northern Border wants to talk to you. Northern Border? It turned out that his expression changed slightly, and he hurriedly picked up the phone. Before he could speak, a cold voice came from the other side. Yuan Jinshan, I'm the Chief of Staff of the Northern Border Camp, Lin Yan. Leave now and release Mad Southern Yi immediately. Otherwise, the million troops in the north will retreat 50 kilometers every 2 hours from now on. Yuan Jinshan's expression finally changed. Be asterisk start, are you guys rebelling? However, before he could finish, the phone was hung up. Threatening me? How dare they threaten me? Yuan Jinshan roared as he looked at the empty hull. As one of the few early-stage soul formation powerhouses in the Foreign Adjudication Department, it was the first time he had lost his composure like this. Old Man Yuan, there's a telegram from the East. Another person walked in quickly. The peerless war god of the East, Luo Tianya, sent a telegram to the Foreign Adjudication Department. Release Mad Southern Yi immediately. Otherwise, the Eastern camp will retreat 50 kilometers every 2 hours. Before Yuan Jinshan could react, another urgent voice was heard. Old Man Yuan, the million troops under the master of the Western region, Ning Yutian, are retreating from the front line. Plop! The 3 consecutive emergency reports caused Yuan Jinshan's expression to completely change. Then he fell heavily to the ground. Crazy, they're all crazy. They're actually doing such a crazy thing for Mad Southern Yi. Elder Yuan, General Xiong Yukai from the Southern Battle Camp, hasn't made a move yet. Someone reminded. Right, there's also Xiong Yukai. Yuan Jinshan immediately reacted. Xiong Yukai is someone planted by the Extraterritorial Judicial Department. He definitely won't rebel against us. At the southern border, under the blazing furnace like shed, there was a bald man lying on the cool ground eating watermelon. Beside him, a soldier read the telegram. General Xiong, General Luo of the East, General Ning of the West, and General Song of the North have jointly asked you to withdraw the army immediately. Otherwise, at this point, he wanted to say something, but hesitated. He didn't dare to continue reading, as if the following contents were somewhat unsightly. Otherwise what? The melon-eating, burly man scoffed. There's no need to think about it. This must be sent by that King Ning Yutian. The soldier hesitated for a moment and said, You're right. General Ning said that you shouldn't kneel and lick the Extraterritorial Judicial Department. Otherwise, the 3 of them will chop off your head and use it as a seat. Damn it, can't you let me eat my melon in peace? The bald, burly man sat up angrily and said with a sneer, This King Ning Yutian is so arrogant. How dare he threaten me? Old Xiong. General, should we reject them? Someone opened his mouth. The bald, burly man suddenly raised his hand. Use my name to send a telegram to the Extraterritorial Judicial Department to release Mad Southern Yi. Otherwise, from now on, the Southern Battle Camp will retreat 50 kilometers every 2 hours. This old thing, Yuan Jinshan, is too stupid. He could have attacked anyone, but he had to attack Mad Southern Yi. At this point, he grinned and swallowed the half of the watermelon in his hand. All right, the 4 battle camps are all here now. The atmosphere in the Extraterritorial Judicial Department was terrifyingly cold. Yuan Jinshan lay on the armchair. His eyes were lifeless, and he was furious to the extreme. Xiong Yukai, you're good. You're really good. The servants standing beside him were even more terrified. This time, it was completely chaotic. The 4 battle camps all protected Mad Southern Yi and retreated behind the battle line in unison. The consequence of retreating was that the battle line that they had painstakingly penetrated would completely collapse. In the end, it would allow the foreign army to march in. At that time, The outcome would cause their extraterritorial judicial department to be roasted on the fire and become a criminal for eternity. Ring, ring, ring. At that moment, a phone rang, completely shattering Xiong Yotsai's psychological defense. A subordinate gulped and said, "Old Yuan, it's the Imperial City's special line." Yuan Jinshan took a deep breath in and walked over quickly. He picked up the phone with trembling hands. Before he could speak, an extremely cold voice came from it. "Is your extraterritorial judicial department trying to overturn the heavens? I'll give you an hour to release him." Yes, Yuan Jinshan, who was as powerful as a beginner stage incarnation, could not help but feel his heart twitch when he heard this voice. Then he nodded heavily. After hanging up the phone, he brought his men to the place where Yi Chan was locked up without saying a word. It was not an exaggeration to describe him as panicking. Mad Southern Yi actually alarmed that person. In the outskirts of the capital, in a small world that was opened up, Yi Chen sat cross-legged as if he had fallen into a tortoise's sleep. Boom! Following a loud bang, Yuan Jinshan walked in quickly with his men. Almost at that moment, Yi Chen's eyes opened all of a sudden. Yuan Jinshan's eyes twitched as he glanced at Yi Chen. He said coldly, "Mad Southern Yi, you can leave now." He lifted his hand and took out a token after saying that. He was about to remove the formation that trapped Yi Chen when he heard Yi Chen say, "The environment here isn't bad. I don't plan to leave yet." Be *starred. Yuan Jinshan could no longer suppress the anger in him. "Yi, don't you know how to appreciate favors?" "Old thing, you're the one who doesn't know how to appreciate favors." Yi Chen shouted and interrupted him. His eyes were cold as he said, "What? It's easy to invite a god in, but it's hard to send him away. Do you think I'm someone you can capture and release as you wish?" Yuan Jinshan was furious. "Do you really think you can imprison me with this stupid formation of yours?" Yi Chen squinted at him. His gaze was extremely cold. "I just want to see how miserable your fate will be." End of this chapter. Chapter 1411. Even though Yi Chen did not go out, he did not know what had happened in the past 2 days. However, he could tell from Yuan Jinshan's attitude. The latter was facing pressure. He could roughly guess where this pressure was coming from. What he really wanted to know was what the attitude of the higher-ups was. That was also why Yi Chen was willing to go to the capital this time and even watch Yuan Jinshan imprison him with a stupid formation. He had seen too many things that made him dissatisfied when he returned to Earth this time. This time he planned to kill everyone and completely kill these foreign sects and foreign tribes until they trembled in fear. Then, the attitude of the higher-ups was very important. After all, unless it was absolutely necessary, Yi Chen did not want to go that far. "All right, you're the one who didn't want to come out." Yuan Jinshan sneered and said, "All right, 3 times. Then, he flung his sleeve and left with his men. Meanwhile, the debate in the outside world about whether Yi Chen had been released intensified. In just 1 day, the north, south, east, and west battle camps had retreated 1,200 kilometers. So, the situation is getting more and more serious. If this continues in less than 3 days, the foreign tribe army will be able to invade the hinterland of China, a subordinate reported to Yuan Jinshan in fear. "By then even the director won't be able to protect us, and we'll become sinners." Yuan Jinshan staggered and his face turned pale. At this moment, he finally began to feel fear. What could make a beginner stage transformation cultivator fear was not a sinner, but the methods of the higher-ups. Although he was only a beginner stage transformation cultivator, any one of the personal guards of the higher-ups could kill him. "Quick, let's go to the prison." Yuan Jinshan immediately brought his men to the prison in the suburbs. He took a deep breath in and said to Yi Chen while smiling, "Mr. Yi, I didn't do things properly earlier. I hope you won't hold a grudge against me. I'm willing to apologize to you." "Is this how you apologize?" Yi Chen looked at him as if he was mocking him. Yuan Jinshan's expression changed slightly, but he still said, "Then, how do you want me to apologize to appease your anger, Mr. Yi?" Yi Chen tidied his sleeves and looked at him calmly. Then he said slowly, "Kneel. I'll give you a chance. Count out to me 3 times." Yuan Jinshan's expression changed drastically when he heard that. He looked at Yi Chen with an extremely grim expression. "Yi, don't cross the line. Have a safe journey." Yi Chen smiled lightly. "Yi, since you're so insensible, then don't blame me." Yuan Jinshan's expression changed again and again. A hint of madness flashed in his eyes. "I didn't expect the higher-ups to value you so much that they've even alarmed that person. You forced me into a corner. In that case, I will suppress you here today and hide in Yinsu. Let's see how they can find me." As soon as he finished speaking, he let out a roar and quickly formed a seal with both of his palms. Immediately, a terrifying formation power swept out. "Yi, the formation that imprisoned you came from an ancient martial tomb in the Yin ruins. It's protected by the corpse of an ancient almighty. Today, I'll activate it with all my might. Die." He looked hysterical. Subsequently, he pointed at the formation light pillar around Yi Chen from afar. He wanted to completely activate the terror within it. However, the formation light pillar did not move. Blurg! At that moment, Yuan Jinshan could not help but spit a mouthful of blood and took 2 steps back. Then he looked at the formation light pillar in confusion. "What's going on? What's going on? Why can't I activate it? Because of me." In an instant, a ghost-like voice swept over from afar. Then, a man wearing a golden mask slowly walked over. The man was tall, and his facial features were completely covered by the golden mask. Only his gray sideburns could be seen. Following his appearance, Yuan Jinshan's pupils constricted violently. And then he cried out involuntarily as if he had seen a terrifying existence. "Lord Divine, General!" At the same time, Yi Chen, who was about to attack, had a grim expression on his face. He fixed his gaze on the person. For some reason, the person gave him a familiar feeling. Yuan Jinshan, the golden-masked man, arrived silently and said indifferently, "You've received many benefits from the foreign sects over the years. I thought you'd become so arrogant that you wouldn't even recognize your own family. I didn't expect you to recognize me. Lord Divine General, spare me!" Yuan Jinshan knelt heavily on the ground and kowtowed like he was pounding garlic. "I know my mistake! I know my mistake!" "Don't worry, I won't implicate your family." The golden-masked man sighed faintly. Then he extended a hand and slapped Yuan Jinshan's head. At that moment, his hand immediately erupted with a monstrous might. It was as if it had come to life. It was crystal clear, and the bones could be seen. It was like an ancient, ferocious beast had awakened. "What's this?" At that moment, Yi Chen's eyes focused. "Is this the purest martial god's arm? No, it's grafted. This person actually grafted a martial god's arm." Martial god did not refer to a realm. Instead, it was a person who could shatter the void and ascend to the outside world with his fists after cultivating to a certain level. In reality, there had been countless debates since ancient times about whether martial arts or cultivation was stronger or weaker. However, martial gods could kill many cultivators at the same time. It didn't matter what spirit treasure or magic treasure you had. Martial gods only needed to break all techniques with their strength. No. The moment the golden-masked man extended his hand, Yuan Jinshan roared unwillingly. Then he frantically burned the life force in his body and charged at the former. "Why? Why do you value a dying person so much? Even if Yi was once a legend of China, so what? Why are you guys forcing me?" After the golden-masked man attacked, he knew that he would definitely die. Therefore, he did not choose to escape. Instead, he chose to fight with his life. Because Brother Yi is the hope of China. And a scum like you can't compare to him even if you die 10,000 times. The golden-masked man nodded slightly. The martial god's arm seemed to have transformed into a ferocious dragon as it pierced through Yuan Jinshan's chest, devouring all of his vital energy and blood. Kacha! Yuan Jinshan turned into a pile of white bones and fell to the ground. A mighty beginner stage, transformation stage, powerhouse had actually fallen to such a state. The golden masked man did not even look at the bones on the ground. He lifted his hand to break the formation that imprisoned Yi Qin and said, "Mr. Yi, you can come out now." However, Yi Qin did not move at all, as if he did not hear him. He merely stared at him quietly. "Should I call you Lord Divine General or Brother Qin?" End of this chapter. Chapter 1412. As soon as he finished speaking, the golden masked man's body trembled slightly. The golden masked man's body trembled slightly. He took a deep breath and slowly took off the golden mask on his face. In an instant, a familiar face appeared. It was Qin Shaotian, old Chen's former bodyguard. He was known as the Zhongnan Sea's bodyguard, and he was once ranked number 2 on the Heaven leaderboard. "Brother Qin, it's really you." Yi Qin was overjoyed. He thought that most of his old friends had died. Never did he expect to see an old friend again. How could he not be happy from the bottom of his heart? "Brother Yi," Qin Shaotian sighed and smiled. With a complicated expression, he said, "I didn't expect you to recognize me even after I became like this. Thank you for what you did today." Yi Qin glanced at the bones on the ground and shook his head at Qin Shaotian. "But why did you become like this?" At this moment, Qin Shaotian had changed too much from the honest bodyguard by old Chen's side more than 10 years ago. It was as if he had lost all emotions and had become a killing machine. "It's a long story." Qin Shaotian shook his head and said, "After old Qin died, I was disheartened and drank all day. After you guys left, the enemy from the outer realm descended, and my sister died in that calamity." Yi Qin was shocked to hear that. His lips moved slightly, but in the end he could only pat his shoulder. "My condolences." Yi Qin remembered Qin Xiaotian's sister, Qin Yao. He still remembered that after he killed Western Overlord Lu on the Chinese Sea, Qin Yao was the one who invited him to join the firearms battalion under old Chen's orders. Because of this, the two of them had a misunderstanding. Unexpectedly, the hot-tempered and straightforward young lady had also died in the calamity of the invasion of Earth by the enemy from the outer realm. Qin Shaotian and Luo Tianyao were similar. "There's nothing to be sorry about." Qin Shaotian smiled bitterly. "After my sister died, my heart died completely. My greatest goal in life is to kill all the enemies from the outer realm." His eyes were filled with hatred as he spoke to this point. Yi Qin hesitated. "What about your right arm?" "Are you curious why I have the ability to kill Yuan Jinshan, a beginner stage, transformation stage powerhouse?" Qin Shaotian took a deep breath and looked at his right arm, which had returned to normal. "Because I obtained this arm from the Yin ruins." "What exactly is Yin Su?" Yi Qin frowned. It was not the first time he had heard of this name. Even before Yuan Jinshan died, he wanted to kill him and hide in the Yin ruins. "It's a chaotic place where risks and opportunities coexist." Qin Shaotian shook his head, unwilling to mention it, and said, "Someone will explain it to you. Come with me, the higher-ups want to see you. They're finally here." Yi Chen's eyes flashed slightly. In a relatively remote courtyard house in the capital, Qin Shaotian put on the golden mask again and led Yi Chen in without any obstructions. When he reached the door, he turned around and said to Yi Qin, "Brother Yi, the person who wants to see you is inside. I won't go in with you." "All right." Yi Chen nodded lightly and walked into the simple door step by step. He saw a tall old man in a suit waiting for him with his hands behind his back. "Why are you here?" When Yi Chen saw the old man's face clearly, he could not help but be shocked despite his calmness. It was because the tall old man was one of the 2 people he had tried his best to find before he left Earth. Those 2 people were the products of the 2 strange fruits that he had used the immortal drift bottle to ripen. Back then, Yi Qin was afraid of their existence, and even warned them. Surprised? The tall old man looked at him with a smile. Then he raised his hand and pointed at the stool beside him. Sit! Yi Chun sat down slowly and looked at him quietly. I know you have a lot of questions. The tall old man smiled faintly. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Gu Quan now. In my previous life, I was born in the Shang dynasty and was known as Taoist Beiyan. You were born in the Shang dynasty? Yi Chen's eyes were moved because it had been more than 3,000 years since the Shang dynasty. He could not help but ask, what about the other one? Gu Quan smiled and explained patiently, he's the same as me, but he's guarding the Yin Su now. Yin Su again, Yi Chen mumbled to himself. Gu Quan glanced at him and said apologetically, Fellow Yi, when you guys went to the ancient desolate realm, fellow Guangling, and I knew about it. I also know that you've encountered many injustices after you returned. Even though you don't say it, you probably feel indignant. He could not help but stand up and bow to Yi Chen as he spoke to this point. He said, in reality, we were forced to do so. Because the Yin Su is too complicated, almost all of our elites have been transferred to the Yin Su, so we have no time to care about your friends and old friends. When the foreign enemies first invaded, fellow Guangling and I also advocated fighting. However, after 5 years of war, we finally realized the strength of the foreign worlds. He smiled bitterly. To be honest, China and even Earth can't afford to fight. Therefore, we could only sit down and negotiate. In the end, this is the current situation. As for the impact that it brought, we are powerless to change it. Yi Chen looked at him fixedly after hearing that. If I'm not wrong, the foreign enemies are here for the Yin Su, right? That's right. Gu Quan took a deep look at him and nodded with a solemn expression. Yin ruins were the ruins of the capital city of Yin Shang in ancient times. I believe, fellow, he knows something about Yin Shang. After all, the ancient God Conferment War was related to it. The ancient, great God Conferment War. Yi Chen's eyes flashed imperceptibly. He could not be more familiar with this rumor. It involved many mythical figures, including primordial figures, and even the battle between the Chan school and Jia school. All in all, it was an era of chaos. As someone who was born in the Shang dynasty, Gu Quan spoke slowly and enunciated word by word. I can tell you responsibly that the ancient great God Conferment War, including the Heavenly Court, really existed. What did you say? Yi Chen's pupils constricted. These words were simply too shocking. In other words, Earth once had a cultivation civilization that far surpassed the outer realm's starry skies. Otherwise, why do you think the outer realm is invading Earth at all costs? They want to steal the civilization of Earth. Gu Quan looked at him fixedly. The reason why Earth is called the celestial burial planet is because Earth has indeed buried immortals before. At this point, he took a deep breath in and said word by word, and the outer realm wants to obtain the opportunity to become an immortal, the gate of Xian Pin. End of this chapter. Chapter 1413. The opportunity to become an immortal? The door of Xian Pin. Yi Chen's expression changed slightly when he heard Taoist Yan's words. There's really a chance to become an immortal on Earth. Although he said that, he could not help but think of the immortal drift bottle in his body. He had obtained it from Earth, and it was also because of it that he had successfully ascended to the immortal world and ascended to the throne of an immortal. I'm not sure if there is. Taoist Beiyan said bitterly. However, the ancient God Conferment War and the Heavenly Court did exist. The only thing that I don't understand is whether these so-called gods and immortals are real immortals or a group of ancient energy refinement cultivators whose cultivation base surpasses ours. Your doubts are not without reason. Yi Chen nodded lightly and said seriously, before I descended to Earth, I passed by Mars. I saw the altar where the ancient people worshipped heaven and Earth. It was also there that I saw the top 100 stars in the world. Earth is currently ranked in the hundreds of thousands. At this point, he could not help but stare at the former. Do you know what was the highest ranking Earth had among the stars? Taoist Beiyan looked puzzled. Ranked 6th. Yi Qin said word by word. As soon as he said that, even Taoist Bayan sucked in a breath of cold air. His scalp went numb. Yi Qin looked at him quietly. He knew that this shocking news had affected him greatly. However, if Earth really had the opportunity to become an immortal, it meant that Earth's status in the heavens was probably not lower than the spirit realm. One had to know that the spirit realm was second only to the immortal world and the devil realm. Sixth, after a while, Taoist Bayan gradually returned to his senses. His lips trembled slightly. This secret is too shocking. Even I've never heard of it in my previous life. I can only say that Earth really existed in a very glorious era. What's going on with Yin Su? Yi Qin frowned and said, I heard that many god transformation stage powerhouses from foreign sects went to Yin Su. Just like I said earlier, Taoist Bayan said, Yin Su is the ruins of Yin Shang's capital, and Yin Shang was a chaotic era filled with gods and demons. The cultivation civilization could be said to be prosperous. Therefore, there are too many opportunities left on that land. He seemed to have thought of something and said to Yi Qin while looking at him, I suppose you've met Qin Xiaotian? Yi Qin nodded lightly upon hearing that. Taoist Bayan smiled. There is a martial tomb in the dark ruins, and an ancient martial god is buried within it. Qin Xiaotian's right arm was obtained from the martial tomb. That was a stroke of luck for that kid. Yi Qin nodded while smiling. He had guessed the uniqueness of Qin Xiaotian's right arm before this. And it seems like Qin Xiaotian's fortuitous encounter. There are still countless. Taoist Bayan looked at Yi Qin with a serious expression. Every fortuitous encounter is enough to make countless people fight to the death for it. It's even enough to make countries compete with each other. These were all left behind by the Qi practitioners of the Shang dynasty? Yi Qin was surprised. Not entirely. Taoist Dark North shook his head. Most of them were the ancestors of the Yin Shang dynasty. In truth, even I don't know much about the existence of the Yin Shang dynasty. The danger in the Yin ruins refers to the mechanisms and formations. Yi Qin asked again. The mechanisms and formations are only one of them. Taoist Bayan's expression was slightly serious as he said, Only a portion of the ruins have been unsealed at the moment. These ruins occupy less than a third of the ruins, and they are all at the periphery of the ruins. There are the traps and formations of the Tomb Master, and even the ferocious creatures that the Tomb Master turned into after his death. Yi Qin nodded secretly when he heard that. Taoist Bayan continued, Secondly, there are the poisons and curses scattered throughout the ruins. These poisons and curses can kill ordinary nascent soul cultivators upon contact. But the most powerful ones are the native living beings of the ruins, such as demonic beasts. There are native living beings in the dark ruins. Yi Qin could not help but take another look at him. That's right. Taoist Bayan took a deep breath in and said, For example, the mermaids and the ancient witch tribes have existed for an extremely long time and rarely appear in human history. However, they cannot be underestimated. There were once soul formation powerhouses from foreign sects who died in their hands. In other words, there are also existences comparable to soul formation among these native living beings? Yi Qin's eyes flashed imperceptibly as he said, If that's the case, why haven't I seen these native living beings escape to the outside world? Because they can't walk out of the dark ruins. Taoist Bayan looked at him in admiration and said, We once secretly captured a merman and prepared to bring him out for the higher-ups to study. However, we didn't expect that as soon as that person left the dark ruins tunnel, that merman instantly turned into a pool of blood. At this point, he added, In reality, it's not just the merman. All the living beings in the dark ruins can't leave the dark ruins. Only magic treasures, cultivation methods, and inheritances can be brought out. Looks like the dark ruins are indeed mysterious, Yi Qin nodded and said as his eyes flickered. But that's good too. At least there won't be any living beings in the dark ruins attacking the human world. That's the only thing we can be at ease about, Taoist Baiyan said. Currently, there are entrances to the dark ruins all over the world. Various countries have also sent powerhouses to explore. Apart from that, there are also powerhouses from foreign sects and foreign tribes. Foreigners are also coveting China's things. Yi Chen's gaze turned slightly cold. Taoist Baiyan seemed to have guessed his displeasure and sighed softly. Currently, we humans are caught between the foreign sects and many foreign tribes. We are all targets of both parties, and their goal is to join forces to obtain benefits in the dark ruins. He seemed to have thought of something and said, "In the dark ruins, various countries have formed alliances and many small groups. It's very complicated and earth-shattering battles break out from time to time." Yi Chen thought about it and said, "You said that the foreign sects are looking for the gate of Xian Pin." "That's right." Taoist Baiyan nodded slightly. "It said that there's a gate that leads to immortality in the dark ruins. This gate is known as the Gate of Xian Pin, and it's also a supreme treasure created by the ancient heavenly court. After the ancient heavenly court disappeared, this treasure fell into the dark ruins." At this point, he could not help but sigh faintly. Unfortunately, this is only a rumor. Even so, it still caused countless powerhouses from Earth, foreign sects, and foreign tribes to die. Perhaps the so-called Gate of Xian Pin doesn't exist at all. Yi Chen guessed. To be precise, this is a scam. It's a scam to bury the cultivators of the foreign sections. That's why Earth is called the Celestial Burial Planet. Just as Taoist Baiyan was about to speak, he saw Qin Xiaotian, who was dressed in a golden mask, walk in. The latter whispered a few words into the former's ear. Taoist Baiyan's expression changed slightly after hearing that. Then he looked at Yi Chen and said while laughing, "Fellow Yi, your close friends and disciples are really good at doing things." Chapter 1414. Seeing the confusion on Yi Chen's face, Qin Xiaotian, who was standing aside, glanced at Taoist Baiyan and told him everything that happened. Yi Chen did not know whether to laugh or cry after hearing that. It turned out that Luo, Tianya, Songqie, and the other generals of the four camps had led their troops back from the front line to protect him. The result was that the foreign army from all four directions took the opportunity to invade. After receiving the news that Yi Chen was released, Luo Tianya and the rest launched a counterattack again. In less than 2 hours, they pushed the front line back to its original place. The only exception was that the commander in charge of guarding the south, Xiong Yukai, had suffered a defeat. Not only did he lose his troops, he almost lost his life. "I owe them a favor this time." As Yi Chen smiled lightly, he seemed to have thought of something. He looked at Taoist Baiyan and said, "I heard that someone did something to Luo Tianya and my disciple, Songqie?" The atmosphere in the room instantly turned cold. Taoist Baiyan's expression changed slightly before he sighed. "That's true. The three of them, including Ning Yutian and the rest, all have 12 shackles in their bodies." At this point, his face was extremely livid. Not only did these 12 shackles bind them to the battlefront, they also prevented them from advancing from nascent soul stage. Otherwise, some of them might have already stepped into soul formation stage. "Do you know who did it?" Yi Chen said coldly. "I'm not sure." Qin Xiaotian took over the topic and said, "We've used countless resources, but we can't find out who did it. The only thing we know is that it's suspected to be a human force, and they're anti-human. They desire destruction and war. This force is very strange." Taoist Baiyan added, "As long as it's beneficial to Earth, they will oppose it. Moreover, they're very good at brainwashing. They're crazy about developing humans. Some brainwashed people even dare to pull grenades in crowded places without fear of death," he added. "We've captured many people, but these people don't know the situation of this force, much less their internal members and headquarters." "Interesting," Yi Chen grinned, revealing his white teeth. "I'll take care of Luo Tinya's physical condition. I hope the mastermind behind this will never fall into my hands. Otherwise," as he thought of this, he turned to look at Taoist Baiyan. Right. Do you know the whereabouts of my brother, Yang Tian? Ever since he returned to Earth, he knew nothing about Yang Tian. He did not learn anything even from Yi Wen and the rest. However, based on Yi Chen's understanding of Yang Tian, he did not believe that Yang Tian would die so easily. Although Second Master Yang was brave at times, one would be wrong to think that he was brainless. After all, Second Brother Yang had been with Yellow Spring Patriarch for a while. As soon as Yi Chen finished speaking, Taoist Baiyan and Qin Shaotian could not help but look at each other. Subsequently, they could not help but laugh out loud. You guys know about it? Yi Chen's eyes lit up with joy. Qin Shaotian looked at him and shook his head with a smile. How should I put it? Yang Tian's situation is a little complicated. Not only did he not die, but he also had a unique encounter. This kid has become someone else's son-in-law. Taoist Dark North didn't know whether to laugh or to cry. And he's also the son-in-law of the merfolk. He's currently enjoying life with them. What? Yi Chen was stunned at that moment. He almost blurted out by instinct that Yang Tian was going to learn from Su Xian. One called him a snake, while the other called him a merman. That's why I told you that Yang Tian's situation is a little complicated. Qin Shaotian could not help but say, when Yin Su first appeared, Yang Tian and I entered Yin Su together. Due to some unforeseen circumstances, Yang Tian and I fell into the martial god's tomb. Apart from the martial god's dried corpse, there was also a merfolk lady suppressed in the tomb. He took a deep breath in and said, in the end, Yang Tian insisted on pointing at her and talking about the differences between merfolk ladies and human ladies. In the end, he accidentally triggered a mechanism and released her. Then, he was taken away by the merfolk lady. That merfolk lady is very powerful. Taoist Baiyan said with a grim expression, I'm afraid she's no weaker than void training. Just when we were discussing how to save Yang Tian, someone from the merfolk came to tell us that Yang Tian is now the merfolk's new son-in-law. This brat, Yi Chen, did not know whether to laugh or cry after understanding what had happened, so he's hiding in a gentle nest to enjoy his life. I was worried about him for nothing. However, it seems like I have to make a trip to Yin Su. At that moment, Taoist Baiyan suddenly took out a purple item that looked like a jade slit ring and passed it to Yi Chen. This is a product from the Yin Ruins. It's called the Yin Ruins Jade. You can study it if you're interested. Yi Chen took the purple item and took a look. At that moment, something in his body suddenly trembled violently. However, it was this trembling that stirred up intense waves under Yi Chen's calm gaze. The immortal drift bottle had moved. Ever since he descended to Earth from the immortal world, the immortal drift bottle had moved a few times. The first few times were because of the two seeds. However, it had moved because of this purple jade ring. Moreover, it was even more intense than before. There was a terrifying suction force that seemed to want to devour the purple jade ring. If Yi Chen had not gripped the purple jade slit with great force, the former might have been absorbed instantly. An hour later, Yi Chen left the Sihiwan and entered a hotel alone. He then set up a formation. He took a deep breath in and thought about it. In an instant, a dark green bottle appeared in his hand. The bottle was as clear as jade and about the size of a baby's palm. Its entire body was engraved with birds, beasts, insects, and fish. It did not even have a lid. It was Yi Chen's greatest secret, the immortal drift bottle. Boom! Before Yi Chen could react, an extremely terrifying suction force came the moment the immortal drift bottle appeared. Subsequently, it devoured the purple jade slit ring forcefully. Did something happen to the immortal drift bottle because of the item in Yin Su? Yi Chen stared at the immortal drift bottle before him with that thought in mind. After the immortal drift bottle absorbed the purple jade ring, it suddenly shook violently. Then the birds, beasts, insects, and fish on it turned into a few green leaves. Although the leaves seemed to be carved, they were lifelike. Apart from that, there were no other changes to the bottle. Suddenly, a layer of golden mist seeped out from the mouth of the bottle. It was like a golden rainbow refracted by sunlight on the clouds. As soon as Yi Chen sucked in a wisp of golden mist, he immediately felt the blood and energy that was gradually flowing out of his body slow down. He could not help but take 2 more breaths. After he devoured all of the golden mist, he immediately felt a trace of blood and energy increase in his body. He even felt that he did not feel as uncomfortable as before. What's this? Yi Chen looked at the immortal drift bottle quietly. Even though he was extremely calm, he could not help but twitch hard at that moment. P.S. I can only write 2 chapters today. Brothers, I've been running around for the past 2 days. I can't help it. I'll update normally later. I'll try my best to speed up the pace. End of this chapter. Chapter 1415. After the immortal drift bottle mutated, the golden mist that seeped out can heal my injuries? In the quiet room, Yi Chen's eyes were trembling as he looked at the immortal drift bottle. Even though there was very little golden mist like before, he could still sense the changes in his body. As soon as this thought appeared, he almost could not believe it. After losing 3 drops of heart blood, the hematopoietic function in his body had completely collapsed, and his vital energy and blood were decreasing day by day. Unless he had an immortal pill or miraculous medicine, there was no way to reverse this situation. However, there was hope in the immortal drift bottle now. It's a pity that there's too little golden mist. He could not help but rub his chin and say, the reason why the immortal drift bottle mutated was because of the jade ring that Taoist Beiyan gave me. And that jade ring came from Insu. Yi Chen's eyes flickered as he thought to this point. Subsequently, his pupils constricted violently. I obtained the immortal drift bottle from Earth. Could it be related to Insu? To be precise, the immortal drift bottle also came from Insu. If I can find the jade ring that Taoist Beiyan has, maybe I can recover my body. Yi Futian muttered. Yi Chen then thought of Su Yuhan. I wonder if that golden mist is useful to Yuhan. In an instant, countless thoughts appeared in his mind. Yi Chen secretly took a deep breath in and said, looks like Insu isn't as simple as I thought. I have to go and investigate. After leaving the hotel, Yi Chen returned to the courtyard house and asked Taoist Beiyan about the jade ring. However, to his disappointment, Taoist Beiyan called the jade ring the Insu jade. Such an item was extremely rare even in Insu, and the few that were left were divided among the various forces. However, before he left, Taoist Beiyan told him that something like the Insu jade probably still existed in the depths of Insu. Moreover, it seemed like there were quite a lot of them. This strengthened Yi Chen's determination to go to Insu. However, according to Taoist Beiyan, although Insu was on Earth, it was independent from the human world. There were very few entrances that were open. They were all occupied by various countries on Earth, foreign sects, and many foreign tribes. Among them, there were a total of 5 passageway entrances owned by China. 3 of them were unstable and were still being reinforced. Although the remaining 2 could be used, there was a fixed time limit for each activation, and each activation required a lot of resources and manpower. The earliest it would open to the public was 3 days from now. During this period of time, no one would be able to enter or leave, not even Taoist Dark North. Yi Chen could only give up as he thought to this point. After leaving the courtyard house, he glanced at the deserted streets. He planned to go home so that Su Yuhan and his parents could be at ease. After that, he would remove the 12 shackles in Luo Tianya and the rest. He did not use any magic power to fly. Instead, he concealed his presence and slowly walked on the deserted street. He lowered his head and looked at the token in his hand. The words Director of the Extraterritorial Adjudication Division were written on it. This medallion had been given to him by Taoist Dark North on behalf of his superiors. Just by looking at the large words on the token, one could tell that it was for him to take charge of the Extraterritorial Judicial Department. From this, one could also see that the person in the imperial city thought highly of him. As for the original director of the extraterritorial judicial department, he must have been removed from his position because of this matter. Yi Qin did not care about that at all. Initially, he was unwilling to accept the medallion. However, he thought about it later on. Instead of handing it to an unreliable person to lick the foreign sects and foreign tribes, he might as well take charge of it himself. He walked slowly on the street. Just as he was deep in thought, a sanitation worker pushed a garbage cart over. The sanitation worker seemed to be a man. He was wearing a mask and had his head lowered. However, a bloodthirsty gleam flashed through his eyes when he passed by Yi Qin. Almost in the blink of an eye, he suddenly bit off his tongue. Subsequently, he pounced at Yi Qin like a human bomb. His speed was extremely fast, coupled with the fact that the two of them were less than a step away. Even a nascent soul cultivator would hesitate in such a situation. However, just as the former was about to pounce on Yi Qin, he suddenly realized that the space around him seemed to have frozen. He could not even move his body. Interesting, Yi Qin seemed to be looking at that scene mockingly. Subsequently, he stretched his hand out and grabbed the man. He said in surprise, "A human bomb? Moreover, you've added a thunderstorm stone to form an extremely lethal formation. If it explodes, even a nascent soul cultivator will die. You're willing to pay a high price to kill me." Looking at the terrified sanitation worker, Yi Qin raised his palm and pressed it hard on his head. He performed the soul-searching tactic. A few seconds later, he threw the former onto the ground heavily. The latter fell limply to the ground, drooling and smiling foolishly as if he had gone mad. Meanwhile, Yi Qin's expression kept changing. The reason being, through the soul-searching, the former was just an ordinary sanitation worker in the capital's Third Ring Road. He did not have any memory of why he wanted to assassinate Yi Qin. Could it be that someone has controlled his mind? Yi Qin could not help but frown as he thought to this point. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh! At that moment, a few black shadows suddenly flew over from afar. They appeared before Yi Qin like ghosts. Their movements were well trained, and they were dressed in the same uniform. "Greetings, Director General Yi." Before Yi Qin could speak, the leading hunk clasped his fists at Yi Qin first. He then looked at the sanitation worker on the ground, who was dumbstruck, and said to Yi Qin, "Are you all right, Director General Yi?" "I'm fine." Yi Qin shook his head and raised his brows. "Who are you guys?" "We're members of the Special Dragon Group." The hunk straightened his body by instinct and bowed at Yi Qin. He introduced himself. "I'm Qing-jun, the leader of the second operation team under the Dragon Group." "Oh, you guys are from the Dragon Group." Yi Qin came to a realization. He then looked at the few people behind him and said, "But why are you guys here?" "You have no idea, Director General Yi." Qing-jun smiled apologetically. He stretched his arm and pointed at the sanitation worker on the ground and the dumbstruck worker. "We're here to track him down. I can't believe that his target is Director General Yi." After saying that, the few Dragon Group members, including him, looked at Yi Qin with utmost respect again. The reason being, from the sanitation worker's sudden attack to the moment he was captured, everything happened in the blink of an eye. Even they were helpless when faced with such a situation. Never had they thought that Yi Qin would capture him with a raise of his arm. For him? Yi Qin squinted slightly. "Yes, Director General Yi." Qing-jun seemed to have guessed Yi Qin's confusion, so he explained immediately, "We've been watching a mysterious organization recently. The organization is extremely terrifying, and they're good at assassinating people. They'll do anything they want." Chapter 1416. Qing-jun could not help but glance at the sanitation worker on the ground as he spoke to this point. "We've been watching this man for a few days. Just when we were going to capture him, we saw him attack Director Yi." His expression turned extremely terrible after saying that. At that moment, they were extremely glad that no safety accident had happened. After all, Yi Qin was the director of the Foreign Adjudication Department now. It was said that he did not have much time left. If anything happened to him, they would be responsible. Is this man a member of that extremist organization? Yi Chen's eyes flashed indiscernibly. Most of the doubts he had were gone. But why didn't I get any information about the extremist organization from him? Taoist Beiyan had told him about the organization before. Never had he thought that they would target him now. I have no idea. Chang Jun shook his head and looked at the sanitation worker on the ground. He said, "This man isn't a member of the extremist organization. At most, he's a pitiful person whose mind has been controlled." He could not help but scoff as he spoke to this point. "I'm afraid that the real members of the extremist organization are watching us from somewhere." Yi Chen said, "How much do you guys know about this extremist organization?" His principle was that he would not offend anyone if they did not offend him. Since the extremist organization had begun to assassinate him, how could he sit still? Not much. Ching Jun shook his head and forced a smile. "They're extremely good at hiding. They're no different from ordinary people. Moreover, we're guessing that their upper echelon seems to have cultivated some kind of brainwashing method that makes countless members loyal to them. They might even sacrifice their lives without hesitation." A lady behind him bit her lip and said angrily, "They're difficult to deal with. They'll self-destruct as soon as they find out that they're exposed. Our dragon group has lost over 10 lives." Yi Chen secretly frowned. Subsequently, he covered the area with his divine consciousness. His immense spiritual energy was like a tide that spread out with him as the center. It passed through the buildings and every guest house. 10,000 feet, 20,000 feet, 50,000 feet, 10,000 feet. At that moment, countless complicated information was sensed by Yi Chen. He quickly eliminated the useless information and selected what he wanted. Not long after, he suddenly opened his eyes. As he looked towards the southeast, there was a flash of lightning in his eyes. "Have I finally found you?" He took a step forward and instantly disappeared on the spot. By the time Ching Jun and the others reacted, he was long gone. Almost at that instant, in a 5-star luxury hotel more than 200 miles away from the capital. Ant 58 has failed. On the top floor, a sinister man with high cheekbones was looking at an electronic watch in his hand with a gloomy expression. It was not an ordinary electronic watch, but a precision instrument that looked like a radar. There were many red dots jumping on it. The malicious-looking man stared at the red that had just disappeared as he cursed. "Damn it! Didn't the higher-ups say that Mad Southerny doesn't have much time left? How could he have survived Ant number 58's self-destruction unscathed? No, I can't stay here any longer. If I stay any longer, I'm afraid I'll attract Mad Southerny here." After the malicious-looking man cursed under his breath, he instantly jumped down from the 58-story building and swung to the skyscraper opposite him like a squirrel gecko. He sneered and touched the electronic watch in his hand. Meanwhile, in the building behind him, a room on one of the floors suddenly burst into flames, completely destroying all traces and auras within. After seeing that, the malicious-looking man grinned. Endless madness and extremity flashed through his eyes. Just as he turned around and was about to leave in the chaos, a skinny figure suddenly came from afar. It was as if he had teleported hundreds of meters in a breath. The malicious-looking man's body suddenly froze, and he did not dare to move. Mad Southerny. Never in his wildest dreams did he expect Yi Chen to travel hundreds of kilometers within a few breaths. Moreover, he had successfully found him. "Do you want me to do it, or are you going to tell me yourself?" Yi Chen looked at the former calmly. He walked toward him while speaking with his hands behind his back. He seemed to be taking a stroll in the park. The malicious-looking man's pupils constricted violently. Then he sneered and said, "Mad Southerny, do you think you can defeat me?" Otherwise, Yi Chen forced a smile. Then he looked around and said softly, "Those hiding in the dark, why aren't you coming out? Do you need me to drag you out one by one?" As his voice faded, the malicious-looking man's expression immediately changed. Immediately after, the surrounding space shook, and 6 black figures stepped out of it. They were 5 early-stage God transformation stage cultivators and 1 late-stage God transformation stage cultivator. As soon as the 6 of them appeared, they immediately sealed the space within a radius of 3,000 meters. Then, they formed a strange formation to surround Yi Qin tightly. From afar, it looked like a hexagram. The malicious-looking man's face lit up when he saw the 6 of them. Greetings, old Feng, old Tong, and the rest of you. Please forgive me for my incompetence. The leading old man held a walking stick and glanced at Yi Qin coldly. Then he chuckled. What did you do wrong? You've done a great service by luring Mad Southerny here. His hawk-like gaze could not help but land on Yi Qin as he spoke to this point. Honorable Mad Southerny, let me introduce ourselves. The 6 of us are the 6 guardians of the holy cult. I'm called Elder Feng. Is the holy cult or an evil cult? Yi Qin seemed to be playing tricks. That's just the wrong impression outsiders have of our holy cult. Elder Feng was not angry at all. Instead, he said with a faint smile, the world is ugly and human nature is not ancient. Although our holy cult is a rebel, our goal is to rebuild the order of the world. He could not help but look at Yi Chen with a burning gaze as he spoke to this point. Our holy cult master and saintess are talented and thirsty for talent. Therefore, they specially sent the 6 of us to invite Mr. Yi to join our holy cult. That's right. Another old Tong smile was extremely sincere. As a condition, the holy cult master promises that as long as Mr. Yi is willing to agree, he will treat you as the vice sect master of the holy cult. After our holy cult controls the world, we will share the world with you. Yi Chen could not help but laugh when he heard that. If I don't agree, are you guys going to attack and kill me here? That depends on whether Mr. Yi is sensible. Elder Feng's expression was slightly cold. Our holy cult has countless resources, and we even have a place in the Yin ruins. Mr. Yi, you'll definitely benefit from working with us. The outside world says that Mr. Yi doesn't have much time left. If you join our holy cult, we might be able to extend your life or even teach you the art of immortality. End of this chapter. Chapter 1417. Yi Chen was shocked to hear that your cult still has a seat in Yin Su. Before this, Taoist Beiyan had told him that the place where Yin Su had been unsealed had been occupied by various countries, foreign sects, and foreign tribes. Yet, a mere cult had a seat in Yin Su. There were only 2 explanations. Either Elder Feng and the rest were lying, or there were people from the cult hiding among the people guarding Yin Su. Of course. Elder Feng smiled proudly. Our cult has disciples all over the world. Yin Su is so important that we naturally won't miss it. Mad Southerny, don't even think about stalling for time. Old Tong threatened. We saw that your vital energy and blood were dried up. Even if you still have some strength left, how can you resist the 6 of us? That's right. Elder Feng looked at Yi Chen firmly. If you don't agree today, not only will you die here, even the people related to you will be no exception. All right, I agree. To everyone's surprise, Yi Chen nodded directly and said while smiling, let's go. Bring me to your sect master now. I want to discuss the plan to rule Earth with him personally. It's not that easy to join the cult. Elder Feng was stunned at first. Then he sneered. What if you're forced by the situation to pretend to join the cult? Unless you can make a pledge for us. What pledge? Yi Chen frowned. It's simple. Elder Tong grinned. You need to kill Taoist Beiyan for us. He's the person in charge of guarding the Yin ruins. If you kill him, China's situation in the Yin ruins will definitely change drastically. Forget it. Since that's the case, you guys can go to hell first. I'll send your cult master down to reunite with you guys later. Yi Chen shook his head lightly and took a step forward. An aura that contained monstrous killing intent exploded. 6 pieces of trash. Come and accept your death. Within the time it took for an incense stick to burn, there was a bloody mist on the ground. Yi Chen held Elder Feng's neck with one hand and performed the soul-searching tactic with the other. A moment later, a golden flame bloomed in his hand and burned Elder Feng's bones to ashes. Only then did his expression change. After searching their souls one by one, Yi Chen had a rough understanding of the saint sect's background. The true name of their so-called saint sect was the Heavenless Sect. As the name suggested, they were lawless and did not believe in heaven. It was indeed as Elder Feng had said. The so-called Skyless Sect had infiltrated many countries on Earth. It had even infiltrated sects from other regions and various alien races. There seemed to be many late-stage soul formation cultivators like Elder Feng in the sect, but most of them were either driven to a dead end or selfish people. Even Elder Feng and the others had never seen the most mysterious person in the Heavenless Sect, the sacred sect leader, nor did they know how powerful he was. However, since he could make a group of divine transformation stage powerhouses submit to him willingly, he must be at least at the perfected divine transformation stage or even the void training stage. Void training stage. Yi Chen's eyes flashed imperceptibly as he thought to this point, if there really are void refinement or even soul-splitting powerhouses among these foreign sects, things will be troublesome. Regardless of whether it was the spirit-severing stage or the void-tempering stage, they were far superior to the deity transformation stage. Even in the cultivation world, they were old monsters who had lived for countless years. Looks like I have to speed up my recovery. Yi Chen's eyes flickered a few times. It's a pity that I didn't find out where the headquarters of the Skyless Sect is from Elder Feng and the rest. Otherwise, I could go to them and get rid of this tumor completely. That afternoon, the entire Chinese Special Strategy Organization was mobilized to purge the cult branches that were hidden in various parts of China. Yi Chen was the one who told Taoist Beiyan the news. He did not participate in the entire process. However, he had been watching secretly. Unfortunately, the other party's powerhouses did not appear, let alone the sacred sect leader. He could only give up and return to Tiannan, on a mysterious island in northern Europe. On the eerie and ferocious ancient altar, there were dozens of figures with powerful auras kneeling on one knee. There was no lack of soul formation powerhouses among these people. However, at that moment, all of them were kneeling respectfully in front of a woman wearing a black scarf. Their expressions were filled with fear. "Good, very good of you." The woman in the black scarf sized up the people below indifferently. Her cold voice, without a trace of emotion, was heard slowly. As soon as the sacred sect leader left, you lost dozens of branches. "Holy Maiden!" A blind old man below trembled violently before he said in fear, "We found out that all of this was revealed by Mad Southerny. Otherwise, our sacred sect wouldn't have lost dozens of branches in China." "That's right." Another person's expression was incomparably resentful. "Holy Maiden, Mad Southerny is arrogant and unruly. In my opinion, we should cut him out while his days are numbered. Otherwise, he might become a huge threat to our sacred sect." "Mad Southerny?" The woman in the black scarf suddenly chuckled when she heard that. Her laughter was like a soul-stealing voice. "This person is an old acquaintance of mine. I know how to deal with him. From now on, everyone will enter a state of hibernation and wait for the sacred sect leader to return from Insu." "Yes, sir." In an instant, dozens of people stood up and answered. The woman in the black scarf looked into the sky, and a strange arc flashed across her beautiful eyes that were hidden under the scarf. "Yi Chen, we haven't seen each other for 17 years. I'm afraid you never imagined that I, who used to look up to you, would grow to an unimaginable level, Tiananmen City." Yi Chen flew over and eventually landed in Nine Dragons Bay. As soon as he landed, he saw Meng Meng playing with Qian Qian in the courtyard with her brother on her back. "Daddy! Big brother!" The two little girls pounced on him as soon as they saw him. Even Yi Chen's second son, Yi Ming, who was on Meng Ming's back, waved his arms as if he was greeting him. Yi Ming had been born for less than a month. Although he could not speak yet, he was very quiet. He was so quiet that he did not seem like a child of his age. He did not cry or make a fuss. From time to time, he would look at everyone with his big black eyes as if he could understand them. "You guys have fun. Daddy is going to see Mommy." Yi Qin walked into the villa after playing with the two little girls for a while. However, his expression turned grim as soon as he entered. "Sister, why didn't you inform me that you're getting married? I'm your sister after all." "That's not nice. We've looked for you, but we didn't hear from you." At that moment, in the living room, Su Yuhan was chatting happily with a woman who was dressed fashionably. The woman was wearing a beige office lady suit and a pair of black-rimmed glasses. She had a refined aura, giving off the vibe of a successful businesswoman. Su Yuhan lifted her head by instinct as Yi Qin walked in. She could not help but welcome him in surprise. "Yi Qin, you're back?" Yi Qin picked her up tightly. He pecked her red lips despite her resistance, and teased, "You're still Yi Qin? Shouldn't you call me hubby?" Su Yuhan's ears turned hot. She could not help but raise her fist and hit him. She then called out softly in embarrassment, "Hubby!" The woman at the side could not help but giggle. "Brother-in-law, if you guys want to be intimate, can you not do it in front of me? It's too tiresome." Yi Chun let go of Su Yuhan and looked at her calmly. "Why are you here?" End of this chapter. Chapter 1418. Look at what you're saying. The uniformed lady rolled her eyes at Yi Chen after hearing what he said. "How could I not come to my sister's wedding? I was just delayed by something, so I'm late." As she said that, she looked at Yi Chen from head to toe with her beautiful eyes. "Brother-in-law, you're not a good bridegroom. You didn't come home after going through the procedure with my sister?" She sounded like she was blaming him, but she was well-mannered. No one would feel disgusted at all, and she could even cater to Su Yuhan. Yi Chen said with a cold smile, "It's not your place to tell me what to do." Although he said that, his eyes were shining when he looked at the lady. The lady was Su Yuhan's younger sister, Su Yuwei. She had changed. After 17 years, Su Yuwei had changed. It would not be an exaggeration to describe her as earth-shattering. Before Yi Qin went to the ancient desolate realm, he was rather disgusted with Su Yuwei because she was unruly and willful. She spoke without thinking. Even though the Su family was destroyed, she did not change her bad habit. However, now that they met again, Su Yuwei had changed too much. Whether it was her temperament, her dressing, or even her personality, she had undergone a complete transformation. Yi Qin, sensing Yi Chen's attitude toward Su Yuwei, Su Yuhan could not help but tug his hand. She begged, "Wei, it's rare for you to visit me. It's all right, sister." Su Yuwei was not angry at all. Instead, she chuckled and said, "I was immature in the past. It's normal for brother-in-law not to like me. However, I'll think of a way to change his attitude toward me. Seems like you've really grown up." Su Yuhan looked at her in relief and happiness. Her expression was extremely complicated. If it were the Su Yuwei from the past, she would have retorted to Yi Chen's words earlier. "You two sisters can talk." Yi Chen calmed down and went to the second floor of the villa. After spending a long time with his parents, he had been covering the first floor with his divine consciousness. Therefore, he heard the rest of the conversation between the sisters. They were talking about Su Yuwei's experiences throughout the years. It was only then that Yi Qin found out that Su Yuwei had also embarked on the path of cultivation when he and Su Yuhan were not on Earth. She had even established a company. In the short span of 17 years, she had also stepped into the late stage of the Golden Core realm. This kind of aptitude could be considered not bad in the secular world. After listening to the gist of it, Yi Chan retracted his divine consciousness. He then realized that the Patriarch of Hell and Yi Wushuang had created a separate space battlefield in Nine Dragons Bay. They were sparring with each other. Yi Qin could not help but smile when he saw that. Subsequently, he appeared next to the two of them with a flash. Sword intent, filled the sky, and true essence vibrated. The Patriarch of Hell dispersed his true origin and looked at Yi Wuxuang, who was across him, in admiration. Your understanding of Sword Tao is the most powerful person I've ever seen in my life. I've never seen it before. You're not bad yourself. The density of your true essence is comparable to a mid-soul formation, Cultivator. Yi Wuxuang's white robe was spotless. He looked at him calmly and said, "If I suppress my cultivation base to fight you, we won't be able to decide the winner within 100 rounds. Haha, that's enough. The two of you don't have to flatter each other." Yi Qin appeared next to the two of them and interrupted them with a smile. He then sized them up and said, "It's been a few days since we last met, and your cultivation bases have improved. Looks like you haven't wasted yourselves." Fellow Yi, the Patriarch of Hell was instantly energized. "You're finally back. I've been holding it in for the past few days. I'll leave the rest to you." He was about to leave after saying that. Yi Qin stopped him immediately and said in between tears and laughter, "Patriarch, I heard many secrets in the capital this time. I believe you'll be interested." He slowly told them the rumors about Yin Su. After hearing that, the Patriarch of Hell and Yi Wuxuang's expressions froze. The ancient God-conferment war? The heavenly court existed in the past? The opportunity to become an immortal? The Patriarch of Hell's eyes shone brightly. Combined with the ranking we saw on Mars, it seems like Earth does have a big secret. I'm interested. The Yin Su passage will open in 3 days. Yi Qin nodded and said, "Therefore, what I mean is that you don't have to run around for the next 3 days. Help me protect the Yi family. I'm going to the east and the north." "That's good too." The Patriarch of Hell could only nod. Yi Wuxuang was worried about Yi Qin. He could not help but look at him and say, "Brother, I'll go with you." Just when Yi Qin was about to speak, he suddenly looked out of the 9 Dragons Bay. There was a black rainbow shooting toward them from that direction. In an instant, Xiao Hei's figure was revealed. However, Xiao Hei was injured at that moment. It was obvious that he had experienced some great battle. "Master!" Xiao Hei fell heavily to the ground and spat blood. Yi Qin reached out and helped him up. His expression was extremely grim. What happened? Xiao Hei was a beginner stage god transformation stage demonic beast. Its strength was not something an ordinary beginner stage god transformation stage cultivator could compare to. Even a mid-stage god transformation stage cultivator would not be able to beat it to such a state. Even the Patriarch of Hell and Yi Wuxuang's eyes turned cold. Xiao Hei said with a pale face, "Master, the person who injured me is called the Blood Sun Son of God. He's already at the late stage god transformation stage at such a young age. He seems to be someone from the ethereal palace who descended from the outer realm. And what?" Yi Qin's eyes were cold. The Patriarch of Hell's expression changed. He did not expect that with the death of the ethereal palace's patriarch, the ethereal palace would summon a powerhouse from the mother planet of the outer realm to Earth. Xiao Hei paused for a moment and said, "The people accompanying this person seem to be the godsons and saintesses of the Valley Shade Gate, the Ascension Immortal Sect, and a few other sects from the outer realm." At this point, a trace of blood immediately flowed out of his mouth. Moreover, this person said that within 3 days, Master must kowtow and surrender. Otherwise, he will wash Lin City in blood and kill us all. Boom! As soon as he said that, he felt the temperature between heaven and earth suddenly drop. Yi Qin's eyes were cold. Ethereal Palace, Valley Shade Gate, you guys are really lingering. Whoosh! Right at this moment, a figure suddenly flew over from the horizon. When the figure landed, a man wearing a golden mask immediately appeared. It was Qin Shaotian. Qin Shaotian walked to Yi Qin as soon as he landed and said in a deep voice, "Brother Yi, the situation is bad. Just now, the 8 sects from the outer realm, including the Ethereal Palace, joined forces to say that you must give an explanation for the death of the Ethereal Patriarch. Otherwise they'll wash Lin's city in blood, right?" Yi Chen scoffed. Qin Shaotian was stunned at first. Then he noticed Xiao He and said, "That's right. The 8 sects from the outer realm are even threatening China to hand you over. Otherwise, they wouldn't mind tearing up the agreement and starting a war with us again." End of this chapter. Chapter 1419. What do the higher-ups mean? Yi Chen's eyes flickered. Qin Shaotian could not help but sigh softly. Although China has developed for 17 years, the top powerhouses can't compare to the 8 foreign sections. We can't afford to fight at all. Therefore, the higher-ups want you to find a place to hide these days. It's best if you hide in Yin ruins after 3 days. He looked at Yi Chen and said, "As for Lin City, as long as you don't show yourself, the 8 sects won't fall out with China." At this point, Qin Shaotian smiled bitterly and said, "Brother Yi, the higher-ups have always been cautious. I hope you won't hold a grudge." "Who are the 8 major sects?" Yi Chen interrupted him. "What kind of powerhouses are there?" "They are Ethereal Palace, Guin Gate, Ascension Immortal Sect, Panwu Heavenly Palace, Wanbao Temple, Taijin Sect, Jiachuan Sect, and Huntian Sect," Qin Shaotian said word by word. "Apart from the Guin Gate, the 8 major sects all have late-stage god transformation cultivators. Among them, Ethereal Palace has a god son who descended from the mother planet." He shook his head and said, "This time the 8 major sects have joined forces to ask you to kneel to them in public and commit suicide. Otherwise, they will slaughter everyone related to you. I believe they are trying to establish their might." As soon as he said that, the Patriarch of Hell could not help but narrow his eyes. Clearly, he was surprised by the strength of the 8 foreign sections. There were 7 late-stage god transformation cultivators alone, and there were probably countless mid-stage and early-stage god transformation cultivators. When they joined forces, their lineup was enough to shake a country. "Establishing my might?" Yi Chen could not help but smile as if he was mocking. "These people think that I don't have much time left, so they want to use me to establish their might, right? Unfortunately, they've underestimated me. Before this, I didn't have an excuse to touch them. Since they dare to take the initiative to cause trouble, it suits me," Yi Chen scoffed. He had killed perfect stage god transformation cultivators before, let alone late-stage god transformation cultivators. Even though it was because he had lost 3 drops of heart blood, how could anyone bully him? "Brother Yi," sensing the meaning behind his words, Qin Xiaoqian's expression could not help but change. He hurriedly said, "No, absolutely not." He did not know about Yi Chen's battle record in the vast purple world, so he thought that Yi Chen's peak strength was at most mastery stage god transformation stage. How could he fight 7 mastery stage god transformation stage powerhouses? Moreover, Yi Chen was clearly not at his peak now. "I've already made up my mind. You don't have to persuade me anymore." Yi Chen said firmly, "That's it. Spread the word on my behalf. Get these old dogs to wash their necks. 3 days later, I'll chop off their heads one by one, flatten their sects, and destroy all orthodoxies." Qin Shaotian could not help but be moved when he heard that. He subconsciously thought that Yi Chen was crazy. Those were 7 soul formation, final stage, cultivators. Moreover, no one could guarantee that there weren't even more terrifying existences behind these 8 sects. However, seeing that Yi Chen had made up his mind, he knew that it was useless to persuade him. He could only sigh secretly and leave while shaking his head. After watching them leave, the Patriarch of Hell said with a solemn expression, "Fellow Yi, your body isn't in good condition right now. Are you sure you want to fight them at this time? I've found a way to heal my injuries." Yi Chen smiled lightly as his eyes flickered. "Before that, it's enough to destroy the 8 sections. It'll let these guys from the outer realm know that Yi am not to be bullied and China is not to be bullied." "That's good." Seeing that he was so confident, the Patriarch of Hell could only relax. He grinned and said, "Patriarch, contact Luo Tianya and the North Sea immediately. When the time comes, will definitely give the 8 sects a surprise. Following Qin Xiaoyan's departure, an extremely explosive piece of news swept through the entire China and even the world that day. The 8 sects from the outer realm had joined forces to pressure China, forcing Mad Southern Yi to kneel and commit suicide. However, not only did Mad Southern Yi not compromise, he even said that he would destroy the 8 sects from the outer realm in 3 days and kill everything. Once the news spread, Lin City was the first to be shaken, followed by the entire world. Various countries were shocked, and countless forces were even more shocked. One had to know that those were the 8 immortal sects from the outer realm. If they joined forces, they could destroy any large country. However, Mad Southern Yi was trying to fight them by himself. Crazy! Mad Southern Yi is crazy! That's right. The 8 sects from the outer realm are so powerful, but Mad Southern Yi is still weak. Moreover, rumor has it that he's severely injured and is not far from death. How can he fight the 8 sects from the outer realm head-on? Many people were shocked by Yi Chen's actions. Mad Southern Yi is too arrogant. Does he really think that the current Earth is still the Earth from 17 years ago? That's right. I want to see how Mad Southern Yi dies. If I were Mad Southern Yi, I would hide and find a place to recover from my injuries. At the same time, I would raise my cultivation base instead of fighting the 8 sects from the outer realm with my heavily injured body, someone sneered and gloated. What a pity. When Mad Southern Yi returned, I still had hope for him. I thought that he could return to his peak and save Earth from the abyss of suffering. Many people could not help but shake their heads and feel extremely regretful. However, he's about to die now. Mr. Yi, why are you so impulsive? The legend is finally coming to an end, a famous newspaper in China reported crazily. In America, a local magazine on Wall Street used Yi Chen's picture as the cover and added an extremely eye-catching title. This is an arrogant and stupid Easterner. He will suffer the consequences of his own actions. Mad Southern Yi can die, but don't drag the people of Lin City down with you. Didn't you understand what the 8 sects said? We don't want to die with you. Countless people living in Lin City cursed crazily. At the same time, they put away their valuables and rushed to leave Lin City, afraid that they would be implicated if they were a step late. In less than a day, the population of Lin City, which had a population of more than 100 million, plummeted to less than 30 million. Most of them were old, weak, sick, and disabled. At the same time, the Heavenless Sect's headquarters received a message from the Saintess. Gather the 5 Supreme Elders and observe the situation. We'll attack when Mad Southern Yi is about to die. This way, we can not only win over Mad Southern Yi's loyalty, but we can also defeat the 8 sects and strengthen our sect. Time passed by in a flash. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. On the morning of the 3rd day, when the first ray of sunlight shone on the ground, the entire China instantly became hot. Everyone's eyes were focused on Yi Chen. It was the first time that the powerhouses of Earth had officially fought against the foreign sects in public. Although most people did not think highly of Yi Chen, deep down in their hearts, they were looking forward to Yi Chen creating another legend. End of this chapter. Chapter 1420. Over the past 3 days, it could be said that the entire China and even the entire world had their eyes on Lin City and Yi Chen. In the Chinese cultivation world, many aristocratic families and even the upper echelons of the government, including the spies and media from various countries, spent 3 torturous days. Technology such as unmanned surveillance drones and satellite surveillance were used in Lin City. However, 9 Dragons Bay had a formation that Yi Chen had modified, preventing these devices from seeing what was happening inside. What they could see was that the entire 9 Dragons Bay was covered in white, as if there was a thick fog that could block all infrared rays and divine consciousness. As expected of the former Earth number 1, a powerful cultivator tried to pry into the scene of 9 Dragons Bay, but his efforts were in vain. He could not help but sigh. Just his understanding of formations has reached the peak. It's too quiet. 9 Dragons Bay is strangely quiet. This doesn't match Mad Southern Ye's personality. An old man who had witnessed Yi Chen's growth frowned. What are you worried about? Could it be that Mad Southern Yi still has a chance to turn the tables? Countless young people who were paying attention to the situation through the internet scoffed. This time the 8 foreign immortal sects have joined forces. To the younger generation, they had never seen Yi Chen's glory when he dominated Earth. Therefore, they did not care even though they heard that Yi Chen was extraordinary in the past. This battle concerns the honor of China and the survival of Earth. Many experts of the older generation were deeply worried and worried. They knew very well that if Yi Chen, who was once the Earth #1, lost, it would be a heavy blow to countless cultivators on Earth. At that time, the power of the foreign sects would be even more deeply rooted in the hearts of the people. How could the younger generation have the heart to resist? As a part of the Chinese cultivation world, Wudong Mountain cannot miss this battle. On Wudong Mountain, the current nascent soul stage sect leader flicked his dust and said with a determined gaze, "Even if we can't help Mad Southern Yi, we have to build momentum for him on the spot so that the foreign sects know that there are still people with iron bones in China. My Dragon Tiger Mountain is no exception, and my Great Snow Mountain." In an instant, Wudong Mountain, Dragon Tiger Mountain, Great Snow Mountain, and other famous mountains, as well as the Baji sect, Xingyi sect, and many other sects, were all moved. The sect's patriarchs led their disciples south resolutely. The commotion immediately caused a huge storm that shook the heavens and the earth. Oh my God! More than half of the cultivators in the entire Chinese cultivation world are rushing to Lin City. These mysterious existences are all moving for Mad Southern Yi. Countless media outlets reported it in a frenzy. On the internet, many people were sneering. What's the use of having more people? Most of them are at the nascent soul stage. How can they withstand the attacks of the 8 outer domain immortal sects? Above 9 Dragons Bay, in the middle of a huge lake, Yi Chen stood with his arms behind his back. His feet were on the surface of the lake, but there were no ripples at all. It was as if he had merged with heaven and earth an entire 9 Dragons Bay. "Sister, what is brother-in-law doing?" Su Yuwei quietly watched this scene from the shore. A strange look flashed through her beautiful eyes, and she pretended to look at Su Yuhan in surprise. When Su Yuhan's lips moved slightly and she was about to speak, the Patriarch of Hell, who was next to her, said calmly, "Fellow Yi, you're setting up a formation, and it's a super-killing formation." In the Patriarch of Hell's eyes, Yi Chen's divine consciousness covered every inch of 9 Dragons Bay at that moment. All sorts of terrifying seals pierced through every inch of space. It was as if an invisible net had been woven between heaven and earth, covering the entire 9 Dragons Bay. There was a great terror hidden within. Big Dipper Formation, Major 5-Element Sword Formation, Heavenly Wind Silver Rain Formation, Thousand Face Killing Formation, 3 Ultimate Een Formation. "Fellow Yi, you're so generous!" Even though he was already mentally prepared, when the Patriarch saw the invisible formations, he could not help but inwardly suck in a breath of cold air. A total of 81 different killing formations are fused and superimposed, forming a terrifying killing formation. Su Yuwei's gaze was fixed on Yi Chen. She glanced at the Patriarch of Hell and said while rolling her eyes, "Patriarch, do you think my brother-in-law can win this time?" "Kiss me and I'll tell you." The Patriarch of Hell pretended to look at her lecherously. Su Yuwei could not help but pout. "No. Forget it if you don't want to tell me. Anyway, I believe my brother-in-law can win." A moment later, Yi Chen opened his eyes slowly and stepped onto the shore. Just when he was about to speak, he suddenly looked at the entrance of 9 Dragons Bay. Little Black Mountain said, "Master, there are many older generation people from the Chinese cultivation world outside who want to see you. They said they're here to cheer for you." "Let them in," Yi Chen said. Xiao Hei nodded and turned around to leave. Soon, dozens of figures walked over slowly. While everyone was surprised by the dense spiritual energy in Nine Dragons Bay, they did not dare to be disrespectful at all. "Greetings, Mr. Yi." Dozens of powerhouses from the older generation of the Chinese cultivation world bowed to Yi Chen at the same time. Everyone's heart sank when they saw Yi Chen's dispirited expression. Before this, they still had a sliver of hope in their hearts. However, they could not help but despair when they saw Yi Chen now. It seemed like Yi Chen did not have much time left, as the rumor said. "Everyone, please rise." Yi Chen raised his hand and said weakly, "The fact that all of you are here to witness Yi Chen's battle has given me a glimmer of hope for the Chinese cultivation world." After saying that, he could not help but cough. There was blood at the corner of his mouth. It was a shocking sight. "Mr. Yi, give up." The old celestial master of Mount Longhu cried and said, "You don't have much time left. You don't have to sacrifice your remaining time for China." "That's right, Mr. Yi." Another powerhouse from the older generation could not help but feel sad. "You're the hope of the Chinese cultivation world. Nothing must happen to you. Kunlun Mountain has an immortal spiritual herb that might be able to extend your life. Yi appreciate everyone's good intentions." Yi Chen could not stop coughing. "I'm fighting this battle today for no other reason than to let the world know that the cultivators of Earth are not afraid of any foreign immortal sections. Whoever dares to offend Earth will die." "Mr. Yi!" In an instant, all the powerhouses of the older generation present cried. Almost at that instant, a terrifying explosion suddenly rang out in the sky. It was as if the sky and Earth were about to be destroyed. The might was shocking. Everyone subconsciously raised their heads and saw a blood-colored streak of light streaking across the sky outside the Nine Dragons Bay. Everywhere the blood-red ray of light passed, space collapsed, and it was like a ferocious and enormous beast had crossed over from a distant region of the starry sky. And after that blood-red rainbow, another one appeared, then two, then three, then four. At that moment, everyone's scalps went numb. 100, more than 100 blood-colored rainbows shot across the sky. The terrifying pressure shrouded the entire forest city, almost surrounding the Nine Dragons Bay. Chapter 14:21. Looking at those terrifying figures that looked like gods, Lin Fan felt a chill run down his spine. At that moment, everyone in the entire Lin City, the entire Tiannan, the entire China, and even the entire Earth who was watching this scene fell silent. The silence was instantly replaced by endless shock. In order to deal with Yi Chen, the 8 foreign immortal sects had sent 100 almighties this time. The lowest cultivation base was at early stage God, transformation stage. Ordinary God, transformation stage cultivators were like immortals that were hard to find. However, there were actually 100 of them appearing at the same time. How could this not make everyone's scalps go numb? At that moment, everyone who was watching through the live broadcast and satellite monitoring felt their hearts skip a beat when they saw this scene. Even a small number of Chinese people who had hoped for Yi Chen fell into despair at that moment when they saw such a lineup. How is this possible? The faces of the old celestial master of Mount Longhu and the rest who came twitched violently. They almost let out such a similar roar of disbelief from their trembling throats. 100 God transformation stage cultivators. Even the combined strength of China would not be able to come up with such a lineup. However, they were only here to deal with Yi Chen alone. It's over, it's all over. Countless people closed their eyes in despair. "You with the surname Yi, you're in big trouble now." Fong Mingda and his grandson outside laughed gloatingly when they saw that. It was as if they could see Yi Chen's miserable fate. In an ordinary high school in Jinling, the spacious classroom in grade 3 Class 5 was filled with people. The huge projector was currently showing the scene above Nine Dragons Bay. In particular, the appearance of the 100 soul formation stage powerhouses caused the entire classroom to fall into dead silence. Take a good look. This battle is unprecedented in the history of Earth. One is a legend of China, and the other is the 8 foreign immortal sects that have descended on Earth. On the podium, a middle-aged man with a square face said in a deep voice, "Even though many of you have just stepped into the threshold of cultivation, you can still learn a lot from this battle." The dozens of students below did not say a word as they stared at the shocking scene on the huge projector. If Yi Chen were there, he would definitely notice that the man and lady sitting in the last row were Yi Qi and Yang Shui, whom he had met earlier. At that moment, Yang Shui and Yi Qi had complicated expressions on their faces because they realized that the man called Mad Southern Yi was the white-haired young man they saw last time. "Teacher M.O., this is a battle without any suspense. What else do you want us to watch?" In the quiet classroom, a handsome boy who was dressed in a unique way smiled in disdain. "This Mad Southern Yi is dead this time." As soon as he finished speaking, many people immediately agreed. "Wen Hao is right. I heard from my dad that Mad Southern Yi has offended the 8 outer region immortal sects this time. What can he do to fight them? In my opinion, this Yi fellow is overestimating himself." "Don't say that. I heard that Yi was once the strongest person on Earth." Yi Qi, who was sitting in the last row, suddenly felt an inexplicable pain in his heart when he heard the voices mocking Yi Chen. It was as if the person closest to him was being insulted. He immediately roared, "Shut up!" The boy called when Hao glared at him coldly. "Yi Qi, what are you doing?" Even the others could not help but look at Yi Qi. Yi Qi clenched his fists and looked at him with bloodshot eyes. He enunciated word by word. No, Su, you said, that is, Yi, uncle, yes, bad words." He did not know why he was so angry, but he did not want Yi Chen to be hurt. "Trash, you dare to threaten me after rebelling." Wen Hao's expression turned cold. He slammed the table and stood up immediately. He said while grinning coldly, "You will definitely die today. I told you trash. What can you do to me?" Bang! As soon as he said that, a ruler shot over from the podium and knocked Wen Hao to the ground. It was Teacher M.O. who had attacked from the podium. Wen Hao covered the ruler that was red and purple on his face and looked at Teacher M.O. with a grim expression. "M.O. Winshan, how dare you attack me? Do you know? Kneel!" Teacher M.O. unleashed his foundation-building cultivation base and suppressed Wen Hao to the ground directly, shocking everyone. He looked around at everyone and said in a powerful voice, "Mad Southern Yi is a legend of China. He has even contributed to China in the past. He was also the one who promoted the cultivation method. What right do you juniors have to blaspheme him?" Teacher M.O. looked at the faces and was almost roaring. "I've always taught you to remember the righteousness of your ancestors. Did you hear that? Do you still remember how many people risked their lives to fight the enemy outside Earth 13 years ago, who used their tragic blood to fight for a chance to negotiate for Earth? Do you know how many corpses and loyal souls of China's ancestors are buried in the vast starry sky? Do you know how many unyielding roars of our ancestors are echoing in the sky? If the young are strong, China will be strong. What is strong? First of all, its character and temperament. I, M.O. Wenshan, don't want to teach a bunch of ungrateful and selfish people who only know how to kneel and lick the enemy's boots." In the face of his first outburst, the huge classroom suddenly fell into silence. Many of the children looked sorrowful and ashamed. Only the young man called Yi Qi clenched his fists and stared at the projector uneasily. He bit his lips and said, "Uncle, you must win. For yourself, for China." At the same time, above Nine Dragons Bay, over 100 powerhouses from the 8 great immortal sects stood quietly in the air and stared at Nine Dragons Bay below coldly. They did not say a word, and only the overwhelming killing intent and coldness swept everything. Heaven and earth fell silent, deathly still. Everyone froze. Even Su Yuhan, Yi Hai, and the rest who were next to Yi Qin could not help but feel as if they had fallen into an ice cellar. Their faces turned pale. Even Su Yuwei was no exception. On the other hand, everyone who knew Yi Chen was filled with despair. They no longer had any hope. Yi Chen's expression remained the same as he stared at the void calmly. 7 figures walked out slowly from there. Among these 7 figures, there were men and women, monks and Taoists, and they were dressed differently. However, the invisible pressure they emitted was like a vast ocean. Even the 93 figures behind them were overshadowed by it. The 7 of them stepped forward, and the one leading them was a young man dressed in a blood-red robe. The young man's face was devilishly handsome, and the image of a blood-red river above his head made him look like an indomitable young demon god. Mad Southern Yi. The young man looked down at Yi Qin in a condescending manner and revealed a smile like a cat playing with a mouse. Let me introduce myself. My name is Godson of Blood Sunday. I'm from Ethereal Planet. The ethereal patriarch that you killed a few days ago is my clan elder. Chapter 1422. As his voice fell, the world immediately shook. The divine son of Blood Sun. He came from Ethereal Planet. Countless people were shocked to the point that their scalps went numb. What was a divine sun? It was an existence that swept across those of the same level and was said to have the highest chance of shaking the heavenly star chart and illuminating the heavens. You're from Ethereal Planet? Yi Qin glanced at the divine son of Blood Sun coldly. His eyes flashed unnoticeably when he sensed his mastery stage, God, transformation stage, cultivation base. An existence with a mastery stage, God, transformation stage, cultivation base would be the top existence on Earth. However, on Ethereal Planet he was only a divine son. From this, it could be seen how much Earth had declined. Why? Are you afraid? As soon as Yi Chen said that, an old man in a wide-sleeved Taoist robe walked out from the 7 of them. The old man did not hide his mastery stage, God, transformation stage, or at all. He looked at Yi Qin as if he was mocking him. Mad Southern Yi, didn't you say that you wanted to kill all of us and destroy our orthodoxy? What else do you have to say now? Ha ha ha. Another old man in a black robe with a monstrous murderous aura stood out and said, Mad Southern Yi, you never dreamed that the 8 immortal sects would send 100 God transformation stage cultivators to deal with you, right? Yi Chen's expression remained the same. At the same time, a man with 3 heads and 6 arms sneered, We've investigated your past and know that you've never been defeated. How can we complain about you, the former number 1 on Earth? Why are you talking so much nonsense with him? The divine son of Blood Sun's pressure was unparalleled as he looked down at Yi Qin. Mad Southern Yi, you only have 2 choices now. Either kneel down and submit to the 8 immortal sects and swear to be our lackeys, or die. As his voice fell, a series of loud noises that shook the surroundings immediately reverberated in the surroundings. Submit or die. In the mysterious valley less than 1,000 kilometers away from Lin City, there was a terrifying power contained within. Qin Shaotian glared angrily at Taoist Beiyin. The 8 outer realms immortal sects treat Huan Nation as if it doesn't exist. Are we not going to act? Taoist Darknortha's face twitched violently several times. Then he slowly turned around, closed his eyes, and said, Use the Godslayer cannons! At the same time, open the Yin-Su passage at all costs and gather all the hidden soul formation powerhouses in China to prepare for the Second War. China has been lying low for 12 years. This time, we'll play with them and let these foreign enemies know that China is not to be bullied. Hearing these words, Qin Xiaotian's body trembled. Then he said with a trembling voice, All right, if I die this time, please sweep my sister's grave every year during the Qingming festival. Submit or die. In an instant, it was like over 100 bolts of lightning rumbled in unison, and it shook countless people to the point they bled from all 7 apertures while their eardrums exploded, and they revealed extremely astounded expressions. The power of 100 soul formation, divine lords, is too terrifying. At that moment, everyone's expression changed and they gasped. It's over! It's over! The heavenly master of Dragon Tiger Mountain and the other elders of China were in despair. However, at that moment, Yi Chen, who had been silent all this while, lifted his eyes slowly. He glanced at all the soul formation almighties calmly. In the end, his gaze landed on the blood sun, divine sun. Suddenly, he shook his head and said in disappointment, I thought there would be many of you, but now it seems that there are still too few of you. They're not enough for me to kill. As soon as he finished speaking, the world suddenly fell into dead silence. Too few? Not enough to kill? Everyone widened their eyes and stared at him blankly. They could not believe their ears, thinking that they had heard wrongly. Crazy! Mr. Yi has really gone crazy. Countless people shook their heads. Impudent! Shameless boasting! How dare you be so arrogant when you're about to die? In the blink of an eye, over 100 soul formation almighties from the foreign immortal sects were enraged. Terrifying killing intent and coldness tore through the void. What an arrogant earthling! A late-stage soul formation, almighty old woman, who was standing on a black lotus platform, laughed out of extreme anger. You just think that you're going to die for sure, and want to show off before you die. Do you think it's that easy for you to die? Another late-stage soul formation, almighty locked onto Yi Chen with killing intent. Don't worry, we won't kill you. We'll only extract your soul and refine it. We'll make you watch your wife, parents, and everyone related to you die tragically in front of you. Attack! The blood sun, divine sun's voice was like thunder. Boom! Boom! In the blink of an eye, over 100 terrifying soul formation almighty auras erupted. The invisible killing intent caused heaven and earth to tremble. Over 100 late-stage soul formation almighty attacked at the same time. From now on, the legend of Earth officially ends. A mere native dares to look down on us. You're just an ant among the top 100 stars in the world. Over 100 soul formation almighties arrived at 9 dragons bay together. They sealed the space and charged at Yi Chen. At that moment, everyone could not help but feel their hearts skip a beat. Yi Chen looked at the hundreds of soul formation almighty powerhouses arriving at 9 dragons bay expressionlessly. He suddenly grinned. I'll send all of you to hell now. With that, he suddenly took off a pendant from his chest and tossed it into the air. Rumble! In an instant, the world turned pale and the wind and clouds changed. The entire 9 dragons bay suddenly turned into an azura, purgatory. Countless terrifying essence energy surged out, as if every inch of space was collapsing. The invisible killing intent almost materialized and destroyed everything. Plop! This sudden scene instantly caused many people to fall heavily to the ground due to being caught off guard, and they felt numerous invisible and terrifying attacks assaulting them. What happened? Some people were terrified. They felt as if they had fallen into hell. Every muscle was twitching, and every bone was being torn. The blood sun, divine sun, seemed to have thought of something, and his expression suddenly changed. Oh no, it's a killing formation. This is a peerless killing formation. As soon as he said that, over 100 people inhaled sharply at the same time. They looked at Yi Chen in shock again. Yi Chen had set up a peerless killing formation and was waiting for them. Mad Southerny, do you think you'll be safe with the peerless killing formation? The blood sun, divine sun, scoffed coldly and looked at Yi Chen sinisterly. This formation consumes a lot of energy. As long as we work together, we'll only need the time it takes for an incense stick to burn to break it. You'll still die. Grandsons, of course. That's not all that I've prepared for you. The Patriarch of Hell suddenly laughed loudly and waved his hand in the air. I'll show you a treasure now. Boom! Boom! In that instant, dozens of figures with powerful auras appeared out of thin air. Every one of them was at the soul formation stage. They were Temple Master Baiyun and the rest that Yi Qin had brought from dark purple world. At that moment, the Blood Sun Divine Sun's expression finally changed. At that moment, everyone's eyes froze. Chapter 14:23. The void was like a prison, and the world was in turmoil. It was as if even the stars had been annihilated. As Yi Qin activated the supreme killing formation, the entire 9 dragons, Bay, turned into a terrifying world of death. Invisible killing intent covered the sky and earth. It surged and surged, surging and surging, as if it wanted to kill all living beings. At that moment, everyone's gazes were fixed on the dozens of figures that suddenly descended from the sky. They suddenly appeared like ghosts and stood quietly in the sky behind Yi Qin. They did not move at all. However, the terrifying murderous aura emitted from their bodies seemed to be tangible. It was terrifying, and it froze the air in this area. In an instant, countless people sucked in a breath of cold air. Who are they? So powerful. The feeling that these people give me is not weaker than the powerhouses of the 8 foreign immortal sections. There are even a few of them who are comparable to Divine Son of Blood Sun and the rest. They could feel that the aura faintly emitted from the dozens of people almost suffocated them. The eyes of the Divine Prince of Blood Sun and the others were filled with extreme fear as they looked at the group of people that were standing still. 38 soul formation cultivators. Divine Son of Blood Sun's gaze was as gloomy as water. He gritted his teeth and said word by word, 38 soul formation cultivators. Among them, 24 are beginner stage soul formation cultivators, 10 are intermediate stage soul formation cultivators, and 4 are advanced stage soul formation cultivators. As soon as he finished speaking, the originally deathly silent world first fell into a short period of silence, and then it was suddenly broken by waves of uproar that were comparable to tempestuous waves. 38 soul formation cultivators. Countless people felt their scalps go numb from the shock of this number. What shocked them the most was that these people who suddenly appeared were not affected by the supreme killing formation. That could only mean that they were Yi Chen's people. Many people were shocked as soon as that thought appeared. Yi Chen actually had such a mysterious power. In an instant, the media that was paying attention to the various forces were shocked. Then they quickly spread the news. Breaking news, shocking news. Mad Southern Yi is not alone. There are 38 soul formation cultivators behind him. Heavens, 38 soul formation stage cultivators. Not even one of the 8 outer regions, celestial sects could gather such a number. Could this be a divine weapon from the heavens? News about the occupation of 9 dragons, Bay spread throughout China and even the entire world in an instant. It was as if thunder had struck the world, shaking the heavens and the earth. Within a mysterious mountain valley that was less than 1,000 kilometers away from Linqing, Qin Shaotian, Taoist Dark North, and the others stared in shock at the dozens of people who had suddenly appeared on the screen. They were speechless for a long time. A few seconds later, the silence in the valley was suddenly broken by a loud laugh. A peerless killing formation and 38 soul formation cultivators. Mad Southern Yi, you've really surprised us. Brother Yi is too good at hiding. Qin Shaotian and the others heaved a heavy sigh of relief. Then they shook their heads, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. However, their brows were filled with extreme excitement. With the peerless killing formation and the 38 soul formation stage cultivators, it meant that the balance of this earth-shattering battle had begun to tilt. Pay attention to the battle at all times. Once Mad Southern, you can't handle it. Activate the God-shooting cannon immediately. At the same time, order the powerhouses of China to move out. This battle is not only about Mad Southern Yi, but also about China. Taoist Dark North waved his hand. Within 9 Dragons Bay, the world was silent. The Patriarch of Hell sneered as he looked at the extremely gloomy Blood Sun God and the rest. How is it? How's the method we've prepared for you? Hearing that, The faces of the blood sun god and the rest twitched slightly, and they were extremely ugly. The 8 outer regions' celestial sects had joined forces, and almost all of their powerhouses had been mobilized. They thought that killing a native of Earth would be a simple matter. Who would have thought that Yi Qin was even more cunning than them? Not only did he set up a peerless killing formation to lure them into a trap, he even exposed nearly 40 soul formation stage powerhouses. In an instant, the alliance formed by the 8 outer regions, celestial sects, collapsed without a fight. People's hearts wavered as they calculated the gains and losses. After all, Yi Chun had the killing formation and over 30 soul formation stage powerhouses. Even if they could kill Yi Qin, they would have to pay a huge price. Mad Southerny, I admit that I've underestimated you. An early stage soul formation stage, Cultivator from the Immortal Sex, broke out of the formation with a sneer. Do you think you can trap us with this formation of yours? Is that so? Yi Qin seemed to smile mockingly. However, in the next moment, a red bolt of lightning as thick as a baby's arm suddenly descended from the sky. The person screamed, and his body was instantly charred. White smoke rose from his body, and his entire body was bathed in lightning. Then, the Son of God fell straight to the ground. In an instant, an early stage soul formation stage, Cultivator died. The world suddenly fell silent. Countless people widened their eyes as they watched this scene in horror. They revealed expressions as if they had seen a ghost. The powerhouses from the immortal sects, including the Blood Sun, Divine Sun, and the rest, could not help but inhale sharply. Then they rejoiced. If they had gone out earlier, they would have become corpses by now. At this moment, a black figure suddenly appeared at the place where the man had fallen. The black figure reached out and took a storage ring. A middle-grade spirit treasure storage ring. Not bad, not bad. As the Patriarch of Hell spoke, he sent his divine consciousness into the storage ring. Then he curled his lips. 300,000 low-grade spirit stones, 50,000 middle-grade spirit stones, and 8,000 high-grade spirit stones. So, it's a poor bastard. Everyone stared at this scene with their mouths agape. The Blood Sun, Divine Sun, and the rest were so angry that their faces turned ashen. UF** King killed him, and you still think he's poor? Yi Qin stood with his hands behind his back. He looked at everything coldly as an extremely cold smirk appeared at the corner of his lips. What, are you scared out of your wits? On the other hand, the Patriarch of Hell looked at the Blood Sun, Divine Sun, and the rest and laughed. Weren't you guys quite capable earlier? A middle-stage soul formation stage, black-robed, old man flew into a rage. How dare a mere early-stage soul formation stage junior be so arrogant? I can kill you right now. Boom! He attacked instantly. His body moved like lightning as he charged at Yi Qin and the Patriarch of Hell with a terrifying aura. Clearly, he thought that Yi Qin was the core of the formation. As long as he killed them, the killing formation would collapse on its own. The Patriarch of Hell shouted, "Fellow Yi, kill this old dog. How dare he call me a junior? He's really infuriating me." Yi Qin formed a hand seal. Boom! In the next instant, densely packed torrential sword aura swept out from the void, spanning 1,000 feet and directly enveloping the black-clothed old man. End of this chapter. Chapter 1425. The old man in black screamed. His entire body was shattered by the endless sword chi on the spot, turning into a bloody mist that filled the sky. Another person died. No matter how calm someone was, they couldn't help but want to retreat after seeing a soul formation mid-stage, Cultivator being killed by a killing formation. Whoosh! Shi Qianhan's eyes turned red when he saw the storage bag that had fallen. He ran over without saying a word. This was a mid-stage soul formation, Cultivator. The previous mid-stage soul formation, Cultivator, had hundreds of thousands of spirit stones, let alone this one. However, The Patriarch of Hell was even faster than him. He snatched it first and smacked his lips. 500,000 low-grade spirit stones, 110,000 mid-grade spirit stones, and 20,000 high-grade spirit stones. Not bad, not bad. This one is a little richer than that poor bastard from before. Like a nouveau riche, he wore the storage ring on his hand and casually hung the storage bag on his waist. Patriarch, you're not being righteous enough. Sir Qianhan's expression turned ugly. There are so many storage rings and storage bags. You should at least give me one or two. Go away. Patriarch Yellow Spring glared at him, then grinned and said, Look, how many storage rings are there with so many heads? If you want, you can kill one of them yourself. You make it sound like you killed those two people just now, Sir Qianhan muttered to himself. Everyone's faces twitched. Insult, extreme insult. These two fellows actually started to share the loot in front of them. How could they bully them like that? Mad, Southerny, you're powerful. There's still a long way to go. We won't let you off. 5 of the Soul Formation initial stage cultivators glanced at one another before unleashing their cultivation bases in unison to attack the space in an attempt to break through the spell formation and escape. Why wait until the future? Yi Chen's eyes turned cold as he said with killing intent, I think there's no time like the present. I'll fulfill your wish today. Boom! Suddenly, thunder rumbled in the sky and a terrifying killing intent descended. The combined attack of the 5 people was instantly broken. At the same time, several dozen bolts of red lightning suddenly descended from the sky. These people immediately began to smoke, and their bodies were charred black. The terrifying lightning completely shattered their skulls and souls. Another 5 people had died. At this moment, everyone's eyes glazed over. What kind of formation is this? How could it be so terrifying? At that moment, even the divine Prince of Blood Sun, who thought he was invincible, had a change of expression. The others were even frightened. They were originally here to kill Yi Chen, but now they were trapped in this terrifying killing formation like lambs waiting to be slaughtered. Fellow Yi, what are you still standing there for? Ancestral Patriarch, Hell seemed to have found a great money-making plan. He stared at Blood Sun, Divine Sun, and the others with his green eyes. Hurry up and kill them. They are all richer than you and me. At this moment, there were more than 10 storage bags hanging on his waist, and all 10 of his fingers were filled with storage rings. The shiny jewels made Sir Qianhan and the rest drool. If Yi Chen had not spoken, they would have charged out long ago. Yi Chen looked at Blood Sun, Divine Sun, and the rest coldly and smirked. Everyone, I'll send you on your way now. At this point, he slowly raised his arm. Following his movement, Sir Qianhan and the rest could not help but be shocked. Monstrous killing intent surged out like an undercurrent. The battle has begun. At that moment, everyone's breathing quickened. Subsequently, they saw Yi Chen's arm swing down heavily as he spat out a cold word. Kill. The moment the word was uttered, it was like a demonic sound of death that surged through the world. Brothers, follow me and kill. It's time to snatch heads, storage bags, and storage rings. Ancestral Patriarch Hell roared and took the lead to charge at Blood Sun, Divine Sun, and the rest. It would have been better if he had not spoken. As soon as he spoke, Sir Qianhan and the rest's eyes turned completely red. Nearly 100 god transformation stage cultivators. That meant that there were at least 100 storage rings. In an instant, Sir Qianhan, Hall Master Beiyun, Patriarch Qingling, and the rest charged at Blood Sun, Divine Sun, and the rest like madmen. This scene left the spectators dumbfounded. Do you have to be so crazy? There are only 40 of you, and there are more than 90 people from the 8 foreign immortal sects. Be asterisk starred. Blood Sun, Divine Sun's killing intent surged, and a chill swept through heaven and earth. How dare you look down on us like this? If I don't kill all of you today, how can I, Blood Sun, Divine Sun, face anyone on Ancestral Planet? Everyone, if you still have any tricks up your sleeves, just wait for your deaths." He roared into the sky, and the surging blood river on his body became even more vast. It was as if he was carrying a magnificent river on his back. Attack! Suddenly, the remaining 90-odd god transformation stage cultivators' faces turned ashen. They shattered the void and fought to attack. Kill! Shi Qianhan and the rest charged forward fearlessly. Buzz! At that moment, a shocking sword gleam pierced through the sky and killed an early-stage transformation stage powerhouse from one of the 8 immortal sections. Then, under everyone's terrified gazes, they saw a white-clothed young man soar into the sky. His elegance shook the surroundings. The white-clothed young man's clothes fluttered in the wind as he sized up everyone with his indifferent eyes. "Yi Wushuang from China, the foreign dog, come and accept your death." "Junior, don't be so arrogant. Let me teach you a lesson." A mid-stage god transformation stage powerhouse from the foreign immortal sex was furious. With a long roar, his body flashed, and he immediately turned into a terrifying bolt of lightning. Rumble! As soon as the battle began, heaven and earth shook and the void shook. In just a few breaths of time, screams could be heard as a bloody mist appeared in the air. Under everyone's gaze, the mid-stage transformation stage powerhouse from before screamed and fell to the ground. At the same time, his body was torn into pieces and turned into dust. A sword gleam erupted and pierced through the sky. Yi Wushuang's white clothes fluttered as he looked down at everything. Trash! Kill! Upon seeing this, some of the remaining soul formation stage cultivators from the older generation of China were extremely excited. That person took a step forward and joined the battle as well. His voice shook heaven and earth. "Today we'll kill all these bastards from the outer realm and return China to eternal peace." Rumble! In an instant, the entire 9 Dragons Bay turned into a battlefield of carnage. From time to time, terrifying auras surged through the world and screams shook the surroundings. This was a racial feud that could not be resolved. It was either death or life. The outside world was dead silent. Those with low cultivation bases were even trembling. A group battle between god transformation stage powerhouses was simply too terrifying. The blood sun divine sun turned into a blood river and charged at Yi Chen like a star descending. He was filled with killing intent. "Mad Southern Yi, your opponent is me. Everyone says that you were once the Earth's #1. I want to see what tricks you have." End of this chapter. Chapter 14:26. The blood sun, divine sun, had attacked. Everyone's hearts tensed up when they saw that. The so-called godsons were publicly acknowledged geniuses in every planet. They were said to have the ability to shake the stars in the sky and illuminate the heavens. Meanwhile, Yi Chen was the Earth #1. It would not be an exaggeration to describe him as the godson of Earth. He also had the potential to illuminate the heavens. Who would win in the battle between the 2 godsons today? The blood sun, divine sun's eyes were bloodshot. He grabbed the air with his right hand and turned the blood-colored river into a blood-colored spear. It was extremely sharp and emitted a terrifying bloody glow. "Yi, you'll definitely die today." As soon as he said that, he moved immediately. He turned into a blood-colored arc and charged at Yi Chen. Before he arrived, the blood-colored spear turned into a blood-colored dragon that charged at Yi Chen. As expected of a godson, he's so powerful. Countless people who were paying attention to this scene instantly turned pale. The powerhouses of the older generation of China could not help but look at Yi Chen worriedly. Is Mr. Yi his match? Trash, get lost. Yi Chen's expression remained the same. He clenched his fists lightly and threw a punch. It tore the void apart, and the sky churned as if a true dragon was roaring. The fist shadow rose into the sky and seemed to have transformed into a dazzling sun. It cut through heaven and earth, and everyone could only see that punch. Rumble! At that moment, the blood-colored spear in the blood sun, divine sun's hand, shook violently. Then, countless cracks of various sizes appeared on it. From afar, it looked like a spider web. Kacha! Subsequently, the blood-colored spear collapsed. The blood sun, divine sun, stumbled back. His face was filled with shock. One should know that his spear was a divine spiritual treasure. Even a cultivator at the peak of the soul formation stage didn't have one. Before he could react, he saw Yi Qin take a step forward. He seemed to have merged with heaven and earth. He could not catch any traces of his movement. Die! In an instant, Yi Chen's cold voice rang in his ears. Oh no! It was also at that moment that the blood sun divine sun's expression changed drastically, and all the hair on his body stood on end. Great blood river magic! He let out a furious roar. He could not care less about retreating as he hurriedly performed the ethereal palace's secret technique and formed a raging river of blood around him. Yi Qin swung his fist and threw a punch. That punch directly shattered the vast blood river formed by the blood sun, divine prince. The fist shadow didn't lose its momentum and landed heavily on the blood sun, divine prince. Ah! The divine prince of blood sun cried out in pain. He felt half of his body collapse, and even his entire soul was smashed to pieces. Divine sun? Merely an ant to this Yi. At that moment, Yi Qin stood proudly in the air. His white hair fluttered in the wind, and his eyes were dazzling. He was like an ancient god that had returned to the mortal world. The world suddenly fell into a deathly silence. He was dead. The blood sun divine sun was killed by Yi Chen with a single punch. That was an existence with the potential to illuminate the heavens. How is this possible? Divine Prince Blood Sun was killed by him? Damn it. Didn't they say that you didn't have much time left? How can he have such terrifying battle prowess? Countless people were shocked, and the remaining powerhouses from the 8 immortal sects could not believe it. A late-stage god transformation stage old man who was close to the blood sun divine sun said angrily, Mad Southerny, how dare you kill the blood sun divine sun? Aren't you afraid that the powerhouses from Ethereal Star will come and destroy China? It's not just them. All of you will die today. Yi Chen took a step forward with a cold expression. If people respect me, I'll respect them tenfold. You guys want to kill me, but you can't. So, I can only send you guys on your way. He strode toward the late-stage god transformation stage powerhouse. With every step he took, his killing intent grew. He used his finger as a blade, and a shocking sword gleam soared into the sky. It slashed forward like a rainbow piercing through the sun. No, the man roared and tried to escape. However, he had nowhere to run in the killing formation. In the end, his body was destroyed by the sword, and only his primordial spirit was terrified. Mad Southerny, it's a misunderstanding. This is a misunderstanding. A mid-stage god, transformation stage powerhouse, inhaled sharply and tried to ease the tension. Die. Yi Chen slashed and destroyed the other party. Mad Southerny, are you crazy? A mid-stage god transformation stage powerhouse was terrified. Aren't you afraid of bringing disaster to China by slaughtering us foreign powerhouses? Why should I, Mad Southerny, be afraid of anyone in China? Yi Chen scoffed and waved his sword again. With a thud, he severed the other party's head and destroyed the other party's Naiwan palace. Everyone fight him to the death. Someone sacrificed his lifespan crazily in an attempt to fight with his life. Yi Chen controlled the peerless killing formation and charged into the crowd. He was like a tiger entering a flock of sheep. He killed everywhere and reaped lives. One of them was immediately cut into countless pieces by the terrifying sword intent that descended from the killing formation. Even his primordial spirit was reduced to dust. Another person tried to escape, but he was turned into charcoal by the red lightning that descended from the killing formation. His soul was destroyed. No, you can't kill me. I'm the myriad demon king's son. The mid-stage god, transformation stage powerhouse roared. I'll kill you even if you're the son of God. Yi Chen erased his life without hesitation. An early stage god, transformation stage powerhouse, was completely scared out of his wits. He kowtowed like he was pounding garlic. Mad Southerny, I'm willing to submit. Please don't kill me. Sorry, I don't accept trash. Yi Chen's gaze was ruthless. He killed him on the spot with a punch, destroying his soul. It was as if he had entered an uninhabited land. Blood filled the air, and it seemed to have turned into purgatory on earth. People kept dying. This is too terrifying. How is this a dying person? He's clearly a devil from hell. Devil, devil. The various forces that were watching the battle from the outside world felt their scalps go numb from fear. Even though they were outside the battle, their bodies were trembling. Even Shi Qianhan and the rest were no exception. Before this, who would have thought that Yi Chen would be so terrifying? In less than an hour, the entire Nine Dragons Bay was completely shrouded in blood mist. The broken corpses of the powerhouses from the foreign immortal sects were everywhere. With the death of the last late-stage God Transformation Stage powerhouse, the hundreds of God Transformation Stage powerhouses from the 8 foreign immortal sects were all killed without exception. Even the Blood Sun God Sun was scared out of his wits. Yi Chen looked around like a supreme demon lord sweeping through the world. He said forcefully, "From today onwards, anyone who dares to look down on China will be killed no matter how far away I am. Rumble." When he said the last word, the entire world shook endlessly, as if there were hundreds of thunderbolts rumbling at the same time. Those who offend China will be killed no matter how far away they are. At that moment, everyone fell silent. Only this shocking voice echoed crazily in their minds. End of this chapter. Chapter 1427. Those who offend China will be killed no matter how far away they are. Rumble! A thunderous rumble resounded in the sky. The might seemed to have caused the entire world to violently tremble. Everyone stared blankly at the scene. At this moment, a gentle breeze blew over, instantly blowing the extremely dense stench of blood in all directions. It was this pungent stench of blood that caused everyone to gradually wake up from their daze. The empty world then became deathly silent. The surroundings were deathly silent. No one dared to take a deep breath at this moment. Countless gazes were fixed onto the empty space. The 8 foreign immortal sects were all destroyed, including the Blood Sun God Sun. Over 100 soul formation stage powerhouses had all died at this moment. Not a single one was left. Even so, the Patriarch of Hell, Luo Tianya, and the rest were still frantically searching for the storage rings and storage bags that they had left behind. The Patriarch's movements were extremely fast. In the end, his entire body was covered in all sorts of storage bags. As for his fingers, they were covered by storage rings with passwords. TSK, someone could not help but suck in a breath of cold air, causing a series of gasps. Everyone's gazes gathered on the thin figure, standing proudly in the sky. Everyone's scalps went numb. It was too terrifying. Before this, who would have thought that the outcome would be like this? Most people thought that it would be like throwing an egg against a rock when facing the 100 soul formation stage powerhouses from the 8 immortal sects with Yi Chen's strength, let alone resist. However, all the powerhouses from the 8 immortal sects were annihilated. Even the Blood Sun God Sun was dead. Someone looked at the figure in the sky, his lips trembling, as expected of the former Earth's number one. He's too terrifying. Many of the powerhouses beside him nodded in agreement. Over 100 soul formation stage powerhouses were enough to destroy any country. If news of this got out, it would definitely cause an unprecedented upheaval. Shaochen 1. Yi Hai and Wu Lan heaved a sigh of relief as if a heavy burden had been lifted from their shoulders. Then, unconcealable excitement surged on their faces. The others were even more ecstatic. Su Yue looked at Yi Chan in a daze. There seemed to be a storm in her beautiful eyes. Her face was a little pale as she mumbled to herself. It seems like all of us have underestimated him. How is this possible? Fang Mingda and his grandson, who were also watching this scene, could not believe their eyes. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. At that moment, everyone's eyes gathered on Yi Qin. There was shock, fear, and even more disbelief in their eyes. In a valley less than 1,000 miles away from Nine Dragons Bay, Taoist Dark North laughed uproariously. Ha ha ha, well done, well done! As expected of the former #1 cultivator on Earth. Now, let's see if the remaining immortal sects of the Outer Realms will still dare to act so arrogantly. Qin Shaotian also smiled lightly. He looked at Yi Chan in the surveillance video and felt extremely emotional. Brother Yi, well done. No one could understand his feelings better than him. The enemy from the Outer Realm had invaded and his sister had died. While he was furious, he was also filled with hatred for the enemy from the Outer Realm. However, he was deeply aware of the powerful foundation of the immortal sects of the Outer Realm. Because of this, he had been indignant, roared, and blamed himself. Even though he had obtained a fortuitous encounter in Yin Su and his strength had undergone a tremendous change, he still felt that he was too insignificant. However, Yi Chen had killed hundreds of powerhouses from the Outer Realm. Not only did he take revenge for her, but it also gave hope to the Chinese cultivators and countless cultivators on Earth. They saw that the so-called natives of Earth could also kill powerhouses from the Outer Realm. Thinking to this point, he could not help but let out a heavy breath. He clenched his fists and said, "The other immortal sects of the Outer Realm will definitely be shocked." Whoosh! As the major radio stations and media broadcasted the battle scene at Nine Dragons Bay, the entire China was in an uproar. Great, well done. Oh my God, he's too powerful. Mr. Yi is invincible. Many of the older generation of Chinese cultivators were so excited that they cried. They had lived in the shadow of the immortal sects of the Outer Realm for too long. He's actually that powerful. On the other hand, many of the younger generation were completely dumbfounded. Before this, although most of them had heard of Yi Chen's legendary history, they did not think much of it. After all, to them, Yi Chen was only the #1 person on Earth 17 years ago. After the great enemy from the Outer Realm arrived on Earth, Earth underwent a tremendous change. Moreover, they felt that it might be an exaggeration. However, the scene before them made them have no choice but to believe it. How was this a legend? He was clearly a heaven-defying fiend. In a high school in Jinling City, the huge classroom was filled with students. However, at that moment the classroom was dead silent. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the white-haired young man in the video. Yi Qi, who was sitting in the last row, clenched his fists and almost roared, "Uncle is invincible!" The rest fell silent for a few seconds. Then someone looked at the former and asked weakly, "Trash King, oh no, Yi Qi, Brother Qi, do you know Mad Southern Yi?" Whoosh! In an instant, all the gazes in the classroom landed on Yi Qi, meeting everyone's gazes. Yi Qi swayed at first. Then he could not help but lower his head and say rather embarrassedly, "I don't know him. We've only met once before." "TSK, keep bragging." The rest rolled their eyes at him. After all, they had witnessed how terrifying Yi Chen was with their own eyes. He was an existence that could kill hundreds of God transformation stage powerhouses. How could a child from a poor family like Yi Qi be qualified to know him? Just when everyone looked at Yi Chen in the sky and thought that the battle had officially ended, a bolt of lightning suddenly exploded in the air. As soon as the figure appeared, it carried a powerful, terrifying, and transcendent aura. It was as if a god was below it. It clenched its fist and slapped Yi Chen's head. What's going on? What happened? Some people's expressions changed drastically, while some could not even react in time. It was also at that moment that the Patriarch of Yellow Springs' expression changed slightly. His chilling gaze shot straight into the void. Only Yi Chen's expression remained the same. He looked around and smiled lightly. He seemed to be mocking. Old dog that's been hiding in the dark, you finally can't help but attack? A surprised voice came from the air. You're only at the intermediate stage of God transformation, but your divine consciousness is quite powerful. You can actually vent your anger on me in advance. P.S. There's only one chapter today. I just got home after driving for almost 10 hours. I'm so tired that I'm about to fall apart. I didn't have time to update too much. Please forgive me. End of this chapter. Chapter 1428. Boom! The terrifying pressure in the air charged at Yi Chen's head. Rumble! Dazzling lightning shot over and struck Yi Chen's chest heavily. The shocking energy that exploded from it destroyed a radius of 3,000 meters. It enveloped Yi Chen completely. Shaochen, Mr. Yi. Seeing this scene, the people below immediately cried out in surprise. Their expressions were incomparably nervous, and the people who were watching the scene through the internet also stood up in shock with their expressions changing drastically. Earlier, everyone was still immersed in the shock of Yi Chen killing the powerhouses from the 8 foreign immortal sections. Who would have thought that such a drastic change would happen in the next moment? Damn it, someone actually launched a sneak attack on Mad Southern Yi. Shameless, he's extremely shameless. Could it be that the peerless legend of China is going to die today? In an instant, all sorts of emotions exploded in the hearts of countless people. The attack just now was too terrifying and shocking. Just when everyone was in despair, they saw the lightning that enveloped Yi Chen suddenly dissipate. Subsequently, Yi Chen's figure was revealed. He stood proudly in the air with his white hair fluttering in the wind. There were no substantial injuries on his body at all. He appeared before everyone as if he was taking a stroll in the park. Great, that's great. Mad Southern Yi isn't dead. How is this possible? Unbelievable, simply unbelievable. Before the crowd could think too much about it, the air shook and a majestic silhouette suddenly appeared. Along with his appearance, the entire world began to tremble, as if it was unable to endure the pressure he brought forth. That figure was extremely dazzling, like a golden sun burning. There were raging flames burning outside his body, making people not dare to look him in the eye. As the dazzling divine flames dissipated, the figure finally revealed the face of an old man in a scarlet red robe. Although the old man no longer had any aura to speak of, it made everyone's breathing quicken. This person is too terrifying. I'm afraid he's in existence at stage soul formation. A powerhouse hiding in the dark stared at the old man, and they all secretly sucked in a breath of cold air. You didn't die from my lightning strike. The old man seemed to be sizing Yi Chen up in surprise. He said calmly, I have to say that you're the number one in the cultivation world of the celestial burial planet. No wonder you killed the blood sun god. At this point, his eyes flashed with brilliance. If you're given some time, you might be able to activate the heavenly star chart and illuminate the heavens. The Patriarch of Hell squinted at him as killing intent surged in his eyes. Old dog who ambushed me from behind, tell me your name. Yi Wushuang did not move at all as he looked at him quietly. The sword intent in his body began to rise like a roaring river. I am the leader of Li Yun's sect. You can call me Ancestor Li Yun. The old man glanced at him and focused his gaze on Yi Chen, Yi Wushuang, and the other two. He said, The three of you have pretty good aptitude. If you can kneel down and swear your primordial spirit to be loyal to me, I can spare your lives and take you away from this abandoned planet. Before Yi Chen could speak, the Patriarch of Hell sneered. You're just at stage soul formation. What right do you have to make us kneel to you? Oh, the Patriarch of Hell snorted coldly. Invisible killing intent swept out in all directions, causing the entire 9 dragons' bay to shake. Blurg! Many of the powerhouses present spat blood one after another. Then they activated their true origin energy, with all their might to resist the killing intent. They felt like their organs were being torn apart and their souls were trembling. Back off! Facing the killing intent, Yi Chun took a step forward and stood before the Patriarch of Hell and the Patriarch of Hell. Then he waved his sleeve and blocked the killing intent. Junior Yi. The Patriarch of Hell looked at Yi Chun with a burning gaze. Don't think that you're invincible just because you killed the people from the 8 immortal sections. You're just relying on that killing formation. As he spoke, he looked at the void and laughed mockingly. This killing formation's power has been greatly reduced after the previous consumption. It's useless against me. You can try. Yi Chun squinted at him. I'll give you a chance. Scram within 3 breaths of time. Otherwise, not only will you die, I'll even destroy the orthodoxy behind you. Ha ha! The Patriarch of Hell could not help but chuckle. What big words! You don't have much vital energy and blood in your body, and your essence energy is dried up. You're just holding on. If I were you, I would kneel down and kowtow to me in submission. Otherwise, I'll wash the entire Lin City with blood today. At the end of his sentence, the killing intent in his eyes skyrocketed. What a noisy old dog! Yi Chun took a step forward. A 300-meter saber gleam exploded from his hand and slashed at the former like a saber cutting water. All right, I'd like to see what else you have up your sleeves. The Patriarch of Hell laughed out of extreme anger. His feet did not touch the ground, and his body swayed. Instantly, he floated over like a ghost. When he was less than 60 meters away from Yi Chun, his arm shook violently, and his right hand clenched into a claw. Each of his jet-black fingers on his right hand suddenly grew to several tens of feet long. Following a burst of crackling sounds, they immediately contained streaks of purple thunderbolts. Boom! In an instant, an aura that made one's heart palpitate and feel powerless filled the sky, as if it could destroy everything. Too terrifying. At that moment, countless people's faces turned pale, and their minds swayed. The Patriarch of Hell's jet-black fingers were still expanding crazily. In just a few breaths of time, they covered the sky. Within a radius of 300 meters, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. The great terror completely enveloped Yi Chun. The giant claw swept across the sky, covering the sky and earth. It was suffocating. Yi Chun's expression remained the same. Facing that, he did not retreat. Instead, he charged forward. He clenched his palm into a fist and threw an extremely violent and simple punch. His golden fist did not seem like it was made of flesh and blood. Instead, it was like a peerless divine weapon that had been tempered in a divine furnace. At that moment, everyone's hearts were in their throats. The media even forgot to adjust their cameras. The only thought that appeared in their minds was whether Yi Chun could withstand the Patriarch of Hell's terrifying attack. After all, the latter was a perfected soul formation stage expert. Boom! However, to everyone's surprise, Yi Chun's golden fist struck horizontally and shattered the giant claw that shrouded the sky. The golden fist's might disappeared as it pressed forward. Crack! The Patriarch of Hell's palm exploded immediately, as blood splattered everywhere. He could not help but let out a muffled groan before his body was sent flying. If one took a closer look, they would realize that the Patriarch of Hell's entire right arm was severely distorted. It was hard to imagine that such an injury was caused by the purest physical strength. End of this chapter. Chapter 1429. He actually took it on? How is this possible? That's not all. In fact, the Patriarch of Liyun was at a disadvantage in their first clash. What a terrifying body. Oh my God! Seeing this scene, the entire world suddenly fell into a brief, dead silence. Then it was broken by a raging uproar. This is unbelievable. Mad Southern Yi can still fight. Countless people sucked in a breath of cold air. One had to know that the Patriarch of Liyun was a great perfection soul formation powerhouse. Even in the foreign immortal sects, There were very few of such existences. In the air, the patriarch of Li Yun resisted the urge to shatter his palm. He looked at Yi Chun in shock and anger. You! He was not surprised that Yi Chun could take his attack. What surprised him was that Yi Chen broke through his attack with his body and even injured him. I told you to scram within 3 breaths, but you didn't cherish it. Since that's the case, you'll die today. Yi Chen stood in the wind as his clothes fluttered. His face was so cold that he looked like a killing machine without any emotions. Shameless boasting. The patriarch of Li Yun snorted coldly. He quickly reconnected his right arm and opened his mouth to roar. Terrifying divine flames spewed out of his mouth like a volcano eruption. Endless flames covered the sky and earth as they enveloped Yi Chen. It was his Li Yun sect's ultimate divinity. Great Sun Li Yun flames. As the terrifying divine flames covered the area, one could see that the water in the 9 Dragons Bay lake on the ground instantly evaporated. Countless rocks evaporated at a speed visible to the naked eye. It was as if the air could not bear the weight. Junior Yi, it's not too late for you to submit now. The patriarch of Li Yun roared. He was extremely interested in the secret of Yi Chen's body. He even wanted to obtain it greedily. Noisy old dog, you'll die today. Yi Chen smirked coldly. Then he moved his hand slowly. A terrifying aura also came from it. Under everyone's gazes, a small black mountain appeared out of thin air above his head. The small black mountain seemed to have crossed a galaxy and arrived from an unknown space-time. It was vast and majestic, yet it didn't lose its grandeur, causing one's heart to tremble. The small black mountain expanded wildly like an ancient mountain above Yi Chen's head. Terrifying energy surged toward the Milky Way. It was the 5 elemental prison peak. Looking at that scene, countless people were dumbfounded. What is this? Even Ancestor Li Yun's expression changed. Suppress! Yi Chen shouted and raised his hands to the sky. The 5 elements heavy prison peak that was like a great mountain suddenly struck out horizontally. It was like Mount Tai had left the world, crushing the sky. The pupils of everyone constricted violently, and all of them shuddered with fear. Boom! The 5 elemental heavy prison peak struck out horizontally and collided with the divine fire that blotted out the sky and covered the earth. Suddenly, it was as if the sky and earth were turning upside down. The energy that caused people's hearts to palpitate violently swept out in all directions. If one were to look closely, one would notice that the divine flames that covered the sky were completely devoured by the 5-element prison peak after coming into contact with it. This was the uniqueness of the 5-element prison peak. The so-called 5 elements were metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. Naturally, Ancestor Li Yun's divine fire was also within the scope of fire. In an instant, the divine fire that filled the sky disappeared. In the vast void, only the huge mountains swept across the sky, suppressing the Ancestor Li Yun. This is impossible. This is impossible. Ancestor Li Yun's expression finally changed. His eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. When he sensed the huge mountain coming at him, he did not dare to hesitate at all. His hands immediately tore through the air and pushed out. Terrifying true origin energy erupted, trying to repel the 5-element heavy prison peak. However, in the next moment, to his horror, he discovered that the true origin energy in his body had left his body uncontrollably and swept toward the 5-element heavy prison peak. What is this? Ancestor Li Yun's eyes widened as he roared madly, trying to stop all of this. At the same time, the 5-element heavy prison peak approached from afar and smashed toward him. Bang! Under such a heavy blow, Ancestor Li Yun immediately let out a blood-curdling scream. His chest collapsed on the spot, and his body was like a large drum that had been smashed all over. He was sent flying hundreds of meters away. Yi Chen took a step forward and strolled in the void. He moved like lightning and formed a formation with one step. It was as if the ground had shrunk to an inch. In an instant, he appeared before Ancestor Liyin. Die. He carried the 5-element heavy prison peak on his back, like a giant carrying a mountain. His eyes erupted with divine light, and the huge mountain behind him pressed down. Although Ancestor Liyin had been beaten beyond recognition by the previous attack, it was still not fatal. At the critical moment, he roared and a golden battle armor suddenly shot out from his body. The golden battle armor expanded in the wind, and its entire body shone brightly. It quickly wrapped around his body tightly. It was probably a protective spirit treasure. Boom! The 5-element heavy prison peak smashed heavily on the golden battle armor, causing an earth-shattering sound, causing the 5-element heavy prison peak to tremble like a great bell. Yi Chen pulled the 5-element heavy prison peak back from afar. There was a hint of surprise in his eyes when he looked at the golden battle armor on Ancestor Liyun's body again. What a powerful protective spirit treasure. It could actually resist an attack from his 5-element heavy prison peak. Master, that golden battle armor is good stuff. At the same time, the Emperor Brush's voice rang in his head. I have a feeling that the battle robe should be a damaged 9th-grade celestial artifact. Although it is damaged, there is still a trace of celestial essence left. Master, the old cunning brush is right. The night demon armor's voice sounded. If we devour it, we can repair our Tao injuries and increase Master's battle prowess. I sensed it too. Yi Chen nodded secretly. He shouted softly and activated the 5-element heavy prison peak to suppress it again. In the immortal world, immortal weapons were divided into 9 grades. Among them, grade 9 was the lowest and grade 1 was the highest. The Ancestor Liyun's golden battle armor was probably obtained by chance, so it could only be used for defense. Although it was the lowest grade 9 immortal weapon and it was severely damaged, the remaining immortal energy in it was able to recover the Tao injuries of the Night Demon armor and Emperor Brush. Clang! With a loud sound, the golden battle armor took another blow from the 5-element heavy prison peak. However, the light on it dimmed slightly. At the same time, the Ancestor Liyun's damaged body was also recovering rapidly, and his shriveled chest was rapidly swelling. Master, brute force won't do. We need to find the missing corner of this immortal weapon, Emperor Brush reminded. The Night Demon armor also said, the old cunning brush is right. This immortal weapon is severely damaged. It's impossible to protect that old thing from all angles. Master only needs to attack him from the missing corner, and he won't be able to hold on for long. Both of them were once immortal weapons, so they naturally knew immortal weapons very well. End of this chapter. Chapter 1430. You two are even more excited than I am. Yi Chen did not know whether to laugh or cry. His eyes flickered a few times. He could only change his strategy and quickly check the loopholes on the golden battle robe. At that moment, his gaze suddenly fixed on the Patriarch of Liyun's neck. The damaged golden battle robe did not protect that crucial part. Boom! At the same time, the Patriarch of Liyun, who had recovered quickly, fled without saying a word. Clearly, he was completely scared out of his wits by Yi Chen and did not dare to fight him head-on. Oh no, Master, this old thing is going to run. The Night Demon armor panicked and wished it could chase after him. Trying to escape? How can it be that easy? Yi Chen smirked coldly and put away the 5-element heavy prison peak calmly. He said softly, "So arise." Boom! At that moment, the entire 9 dragons' base shook violently, as if an earth dragon was turning over. Then, shocking sword gleams shot out from all directions at the same time. The power seemed to have sliced heaven and earth apart. Eventually, it gathered into a golden sword in front of Yi Chen. From afar, it looked like the Milky Way had descended. It was so dazzling that one could not look at it directly. Everyone was dumbfounded. "What's this?" Even the patriarch of hell was stunned. Then he inhaled sharply and said, "The major 5-element sword formation. This is the major 5-element sword formation that fellow Yi prepared beforehand." They were not the only ones. Even the patriarch of Li Yun, who was fleeing frantically, sensed the changes behind him. He was even more shocked. If he had known that Yi Chen was so terrifying, he would not have chosen to provoke Yi Chen even if he was beaten to death. Yi Chen held the golden sword in his hand and took a deep breath in. Then he swung his sword and slashed. 800 autumns have passed since I attained the Tao. Today, I'll take your head with my flying sword. Rumble. In an instant, the world lost its color, and the sun and moon lost their light. Under everyone's gazes, a sword gleam that looked like a river of stars tore through heaven and earth. It seemed to have crossed time and space as it slashed at the space where the patriarch of Li Yun was. "I have a treasured armor to protect me. You can't kill me." Ancestor Li Yun didn't even turn his head as he continued to activate his true yuan, wanting to break the void and escape. However, when the sword light swept past his neck, his expression finally changed, and all the hair on his body stood on end. No! The peerless sword light tore the heavens and earth apart. It was like a dragon charging towards his neck, beheading him on the spot. With one strike, Ancestor Li Yun's head was separated from his body. At that moment, the heavens and the earth suddenly fell into a deathly silence. Everyone widened their eyes as they blankly watched the scene. Their gazes were filled with extreme shock and astonishment. Killing a perfected soul formation cultivator with one strike. How was this possible? At that moment, a purple ball of light shot out from the Li Yun ancestor's body, revealing his terrified expression. It was his primordial spirit. His primordial spirit turned around and looked at his rapidly falling body. He then looked at Yi Chen with extreme hatred and roared, "Mad Southerny, you destroyed my body. I won't rest until you're dead." With that, he was about to leave with the cloud. "That's right, I won't rest until I'm dead." Yi Chen mumbled. He moved and chased after him, using shrinking distance. After all, an existence like you is a hidden threat to me unless your soul is destroyed. Buzz. As the void trembled, Emperor Brush appeared in his hand. The dazzling golden tip of the brush cut through heaven and earth, dazzling. "Destroy." Yi Chen did not stop walking. He waved the emperor brush, and his brush moved like dragons and snakes in the air. Oh no! At that moment, the patriarch of Li Yun's soul immediately felt an unprecedented killing intent. He immediately shouted in fear, "Stop, I'm willing, Black!" Before he could finish speaking, the word destroy appeared in the air and turned into terrifying, invisible killing intent that pierced through his soul and shattered it. The patriarch of Li Yun's primordial spirit roared angrily. With unwillingness, it died completely, turning into countless pieces that scattered in the air. A perfected soul formation, Cultivator, had died. At that moment, the expressions of everyone who saw this scene froze on their faces, and strands of hair-raising coldness surged up their spines. Putting aside the hundreds of soul formation powerhouses who had died in Yi Chen's hands earlier, even a terrifying existence like the patriarch of Li Yun had died in Yi Chen's hands. How could everyone not be terrified by this? Who else dared to look down on Yi Chen? Looking down on China? Mad Southerny is invincible. Therefore, at that moment, the place immediately erupted with a sound that sounded like the roar of a mountain or a tsunami. Congratulations to Mad Southerny. Congratulations to China. Many netizens who were watching this scene through the broadcast stood up subconsciously at that moment. Then, they bowed deeply to Yi Chen with surging emotions. Taoist Baiyan's eyes were filled with tears as he bowed to Yi Chen. Congratulations to Mad Southerny. Congratulations to China. Congratulations to Mad Southerny. Congratulations to China. Qin Xiaotian clenched his fists tightly, extremely excited. At the same time, the four heavenly kings at the four borders of China sent out official documents one after another. Congratulations to Mad Southerny, congratulations to China! Congratulations to Mad Southerny, congratulations to China! The million-strong army shouted. Nothing was more exciting than today's incident in the past 10 years since the foreign enemies descended on Earth. Yi Chen had slaughtered the powerhouses of the 8 foreign immortal sects and killed a perfected soul formation powerhouse. It was enough to shock the world and shock many foreign immortal sections. After this incident, who would dare to look down on China? How dare the foreign immortal sects treat China as their backyard? They could come and go as they pleased. Compared to China, the West was silent. At this moment, they finally realized that the number one person on Earth who had disappeared for 17 years had not declined. Instead, he was even more terrifying than before. The many foreign giants who were hiding in the void and paying attention to the battle, as well as the existences who had split their divine consciousness from Yin Su, were also shocked. It's unbelievable that the declining celestial burial planet could give birth to such a monstrous existence. That's right. Since this kid was able to kill the patriarch of Liyun, it means that his strength is on par with ours. Perhaps it's time for us to change our attitude toward China. If this kid can get rid of his depleted vital energy and blood, he might be able to obtain the title of Earth Son of God. By then, the awakened celestial burial planets, luck, will probably all be on him. What? He has a chance of becoming the new Earth's Son of God? You have to know that the previous Earth's Son of God swept through the All-Heaven Star region and suppressed us for countless years. Chapter 1431. With the death of the Patriarch of Liyun. From that moment onwards, the entire Earth was shaken. Even the powerhouses who were hiding in the dark or in the Yin ruins were no exception. Everyone only felt a roar in their heads as they once again looked at the skinny figure standing in the void like a god. From now on, who can stop his ferocious might? This thought appeared in everyone's minds at almost the same time. He had slaughtered over 100 god transformation stage powerhouses from the 8 great immortal sects in the outer realm, and he had even killed the patriarch of Liyun, a perfected god transformation stage powerhouse. Such a battle record had never been seen on Earth in the past 17 years. In the air, Yi Chen's face turned paler as if he could fall at any time. The Patriarch of Hell saw through his current situation at a glance. He appeared next to Yi Chen with a flash. Yi Wushuang landed next to Yi Chen one after another. His white clothes fluttered, and his expression was cold. He guarded the Patriarch of Hell on his left and right while looking around vigilantly. Yi Chen rejected their support and forced himself to stand. He looked at the entire world coldly and swept his cold gaze across countless faces. A few seconds later, an indifferent voice came out of his mouth. From today onwards, all foreign sects in China must register with the Foreign Territory Judicial Department within 3 days. If anyone doesn't come, the sect will be destroyed. Rumble. His voice was neither loud nor soft, but it was like thunder from the 9 heavens, shaking the surroundings and spreading thousands of kilometers away. It was like the roar of a god. As soon as he said that, everyone was stunned at first. Then they could not help but suck in a breath of cold air and look at him in shock. Yi Chen's words were too overbearing and crazy. One had to know that ever since the foreign immortal sects descended on Earth 12 years ago, they had been unrestrained and lawless. However, Yi Chen wanted all the foreign sects in China to register with the Foreign Adjudication Department. What was the difference between that and a reorganization? With the temper of the foreign immortal sects, how could they agree? However, countless cultivators of the older generation in China were so excited that they almost cheered when they heard the news. Mad Southern Yi wanted to reorganize the foreign immortal sects in China. This was a great thing for China. It meant that the foreign immortal sects had restrictions and could no longer be as fearless as before. Humph! As soon as Yi Chen was done speaking, a cold snort suddenly sounded in the air. Mad Southern, we don't care if you slaughter the 8 great immortal sections. We don't care if you kill fellow Lien, but aren't you a little too arrogant? You actually want to suppress the remaining outer realm immortal sects? To put it bluntly, do you really think that you can fight against the entire extraterrestrial civilization by yourself? Well said. Another cold voice was heard. Mad Southerny, no matter how monstrous you are, you're just a native of Earth. How dare you look down on our extraterrestrial civilization? The voice in the air exploded in everyone's minds. However, only the voice could be heard, but no one could be seen. Yi Chen looked at the air. Just when he was about to speak, he heard a loud laugh coming from afar. Who said that Mad Southerny is alone? Under everyone's gazes, the space suddenly distorted a few times. Then an old Taoist priest in green walked over. The old Taoist priest in green held a horsetail whisk and landed next to Yi Chen. It was Taoist Baiyan. With Taoist Baiyan's appearance, the entire world fell silent again. After all, Taoist Baiyan was one of the few mid-stage soul formation powerhouses in China. The voice from before sounded again, and it seemed to be displeased. Fellow Taoist Baiyan, are you going to help Mad Southerny? Old thing hiding in the dark. Taoist Baiyan smirked coldly. I'm here to tell you that from today onwards, Mad Southerny is not alone. He still has me, tens of millions of cultivators in China, and billions of people in China. If you touch Mad Southerny, you'll be my enemy. You'll be the enemy of tens of millions of cultivators in China and billions of people in China. His voice was loud and clear, like a great bell that shook the world, causing the expressions of countless people to change. The former's words were just too shocking. Mad Southerny represented China. If they dared to touch Mad Southerny, they would be enemies with the entire China. Who else in the world could enjoy such honor? Good. Touching Mad Southerny is equivalent to touching China. The king dies for the country, and the Son of Heaven guards the country. Mad Southerny is a scholar of China, and he deserves such honor. Amidst the uproar, the entire world was in an uproar, and the internet seemed to have set off a storm. It was incomparably explosive, and countless voices were about to shake the world. Even Yi Chen looked at Taoist Baiyan emotionally. Clearly, he did not expect Taoist Baiyan to support him so much. In an instant, the voices in the air fell silent. A moment later, a sinister voice sounded. Old Geezer Baiyan, don't forget the agreement between China and us. Do you want to shed all pretenses and start a war with us today? Many people's expressions changed when they heard that. Obviously, the numerous xeno-race experts hidden in the shadows were infuriated. It's been 12 years, a whole 12 years. Taoist Baiyan suddenly laughed out loud, but tears flowed out of his eyes. We were forced to compromise with you for 12 years. For the past 12 years, we've endured hardships to comfort the souls of the heroes from back then. At this point, he took a step forward and shouted like thunder. Today, if you want to fight, then let's fight. China will accompany you to the end. With that, he suddenly raised his hand. Rumble! The void suddenly exploded, and thousands of people instantly appeared. These thousands of people did not have high cultivation bases. Most of them were at the nascent soul stage, but each of them held an apricot yellow flag in their hands. As the thousands of people waved the flags in their hands, an endless expanse of people appeared in the sky. It was not an exaggeration to say that it covered the sky. The most terrifying thing was that in front of the endless people, there were 100 enormous creatures that looked like ferocious beasts. They seemed to be huge cannons, but they were incomparably huge. The muzzles of the cannons emitted a dense aura, and it seemed to contain an aura that could destroy the world. Yi Chen and the Patriarch of Hell could not help but look at each other when they saw that. They saw a hint of surprise in each other's eyes. This was the perfect combination of magic tools and technology, and it contained great terror. This is my God-shooting cannon, Taoist Baiyan's indifferent voice sounded. There are a total of 100 of them. Each of them can kill an early-stage soul formation cultivator. This is the confidence of China. End of this chapter. Chapter 1432. As soon as he said that, the world was in an uproar. At that moment, everyone's scalps went numb as they looked at the 100 terrifying, beast-like killing weapons standing in the air. God-slaying cannon. It could actually kill an early-stage soul formation cultivator. In other words, if 100 God-slaying cannons were fired at the same time, not to mention 100 early-stage soul formation cultivators, even half of the earth would be destroyed. This was the first time China had revealed its trump card to the outside world. However, it caused an earth-shattering shock. In an instant, the United States, England, Japan, and other countries that were paying attention to this scene through the internet could not sit still anymore. The leader of the United States sat up in shock. He stared fixedly at the terrifying beasts on the screen, and his face twitched. God-slaying cannon. After 12 years of suffering, Huan Nation actually created such a powerful weapon. How is this possible? F*CK, what is the CIA doing? This scene seemed to be playing out in all of the countries at the same time. Countless leaders of the various countries started to move. To be precise, they were shocked. If what Daoist Bayan said was true, did that not mean that China had the strength to control the future of Earth? Compared to the Western countries, China was in an uproar. Whether it was the people at the scene or the netizens who were watching this scene through the internet, their emotions were surging. It was just like how they felt when they saw the strength of their motherland through the military parade every year. Everyone was proud of their motherland's strength. Yi Chin took a good look at the God-slaying cannons. An undetectable gleam flashed through his eyes. Looks like China has obtained a lot of benefits from the Yin ruins. With the appearance of the 100 God-slaying cannons, the previously noisy space instantly quietened down. Obviously, even the powerhouses among them were silent. Daoist Bayan seemed to be extremely happy to see the scene. He said again, "I know that none of you are willing to believe it. All right, I'll make an exception today and let you all experience it." After saying that, he suddenly turned around and said to a man in military uniform in the void, "General Wu, which is the closest immortal sect in China that's from here?" General Wu subconsciously straightened his back and then shouted, "Old Bei, the nearest outer realm immortal sect to us is Jiaodong's ethereal palace, 2,000 miles away." "Fire!" Daoist Dark North waved his hand and said, "Destroy Misty Palace!" Yes. General Wu's body trembled. Then he turned around and shouted at the nearest God-slaying cannon, "Fire!" Rumble! In an instant, the people standing around the God-slaying cannon began to move. They quickly reloaded the cannon, embedded the spirit stones, and activated the array. Boom! As the world shook violently, a pillar of light shot out from the God-slaying cannon and headed straight for the north. Amidst the mountains 2,000 miles away, there was a transcendental place that looked like a heavenly palace. Spiritual energy was like fog, and cranes cried out in unison. 8th Elder Tian Xingzi sneered as he looked at the array light screen in front of him. That old bastard Dark North sure knows how to bluff. He wants to destroy Misty Palace with just a piece of scrap metal? With the death of Misty Palace's patriarch and many elders, the power of Misty Palace naturally fell into the hands of Tian Xingzi, who was at the early stage soul formation stage. At that moment, there were 2 alchemy apprentices beside Tian Xingzi who were bowing. One of them bowed and said, "Grandmaster is right. Our ethereal palace has a protective formation set up by our patriarch himself. It can withstand, boom!" Before he could finish, he suddenly felt a loud bang coming from heaven and earth. Then, everyone was buried in an endless sea of fire and a terrifying storm. Even though they were 2,000 miles away, in this era of technology and cultivation, everything that happened in Misty Palace naturally did not escape the eyes of everyone. When they saw the fairyland-like Misty Palace being razed to the ground, Dead silence. 9 Dragons Bay suddenly fell into a dead silence. Misty Palace was really destroyed by a cannon. Before this, there were still people who felt that Taoist Bayan's words were exaggerated. Now, all that was left was endless shock. 1 cannon to destroy a sect. There was nothing more shocking than this. The Western countries were speechless. The void was extremely silent. However, one could tell from the spiritual wills that they quickly retracted that the many experts hiding in the dark were also shocked. I wonder what you all think of the power of our God-shooting cannon. Taoist Bayan watched this scene with a smile. His tone suddenly turned cold. If that's not enough, China has no less than 50 soul formation stage cultivators guarding the Yin ruins. They will be able to break out of the realm and join the battle in an instant. As he said that, everyone's heart froze. It seemed like China was really prepared to fight with the otherworldly celestial sections. Otherwise, they wouldn't have made such a big show. After an unknown period of time, an old voice faintly came from the void. "Fellow Taoist Bayan, don't be rash. After this, our Big River Sword sect will send someone to register with the extraterritorial tribunal." Obviously, some of the otherworldly celestial sects had given in. Behind him, voices were heard one after another scrambling to be the first to speak. "My Tianqing sect will definitely head to the extraterritorial tribunal in the future. My True Spirit sect will do the same, and my Li Fire sect." In an instant, nearly 10 otherworldly celestial sects expressed their willingness to compromise with China. However, after them, the void fell into silence again. "Looks like some people won't shed a tear until they see their coffins." Taoist Bayan squinted and scoffed. Then he turned around and looked at Yi Chen. "Mad Southerny, under the orders of the higher-ups, I appoint you as the head of the mysterious division. At the same time, you will also be the head of the extraterritorial tribunal. The responsibility of the mysterious division is to suppress all forces that are enemies of China. You can mobilize the God, transformation stage, consecrators of China, and 100 God-slaying cannons. 17 years ago, countless ancestors were stained with blood. China was powerless to deal with all of this, and we still allowed the enemy to be arrogant. 17 years later, China's strength has increased greatly, and the younger generation has grown strong enough to kill their way into the sky." His voice was like thunder that shook the surroundings. "Since someone is unwilling to compromise, then we'll stop them with martial arts. We'll stop them with killing." At this point, he was almost roaring. "Mad Southerny, do you dare to fight?" "Fight!" A loud shout swept through the clouds. Yi Chen took a step forward. Killing intent filled a radius of 3,000 meters as he grinned and said, "I'll destroy everything today and return China to a bright world and eternal peace." End of this chapter. Chapter 1433. Fight! Today, we will destroy everything and return China to a bright world and eternal peace. As Yi Chen received Taoist Bayan's order, the silent world was filled with surging killing intent. Kill! Many of the older generation of Chinese experts roared at the sky. It had been 17 years, ever since the extraterrestrial civilization descended on Earth. They had endured humiliation for 17 years. Finally, they had waited for this day. Most of the time, it was not that they were unwilling to resist, but they were disappointed. They were disappointed that everything around them had gone against their original intentions. The drastic change forced them to choose to endure. However, it was different today. Previously, Mad Southerny had ruthlessly defeated the spirit of the foreign immortal sects and broken the invisible shackles around the necks of countless cultivators on Earth. Later on, Taoist Bayan, who represented the Chinese authorities, had appeared. Since the higher-ups were not afraid of a battle, what more of them? Fight, fight, fight! Cultivate my spear and destroy everything! We will avenge the humiliation of the past today. In an instant, countless excited voices rang out from all over China. The internet was already in an uproar. and the voices for war had reached an unprecedented level. That might shocked the expressions of the foreign giants who were hiding in the dark. Clearly, they did not expect that this matter would cause the hearts of the people of China to be completely twisted. Who was the one who was talking in the dark? Yi Qin lifted his head suddenly and looked at the sky. Subsequently, he extended his hand. In an instant, an old man in a yellow robe and cloak was held in his hand. Mad Southern Yi, what are you trying to do? The man panicked and struggled because he was the one who had secretly fanned the flames. However, how could he struggle free with his early stage God transformation stage cultivation base? Of course, I'm going to kill you. Yi Chen's gaze turned cold, and his voice was so cold that there was no emotion at all. Since you guys aren't willing to accept China's conditions, what's the point of existing in this world? With that, he slowly clenched his fists. Ah! The old man in the yellow cloak screamed and died on the spot. After doing all that, Yi Qin looked at the sky and said slowly, "Is there anyone who's unwilling to accept China's conditions? Please step forward. I just want to be killed by you guys, or kill you guys." As soon as these words were spoken, the world fell silent. Everyone fell into a daze. Even Daoist Dark North and the others were flabbergasted. He only wanted to be beaten to death, or to be beaten to death. This sentence was not just an ordinary kind of arrogance. Even though this was the case, there was not the slightest movement in the vast space. Clearly, the many hidden powerhouses had chosen to remain silent. Very good. Yi Qin looked around and said calmly, "Within 3 days, I'll be waiting for all of you at the Foreign Adjudication Department. You can choose not to come, but I'll come to you when the time comes." With that, he took a step forward and landed on the ground. "Everyone, please." With a flick of his sleeve, Daoist Beiyan immediately ordered his guests to leave. In an instant, everyone present had completely disappeared. Even the media of the various countries were no exception. 9 Dragons Bay, Yi Family Villa. As soon as Yi Qin stepped in and closed the door, he spat a mouthful of blood out. His face turned pale at a speed visible to the naked eye. "Yi Qin, Xiao Qin, Su Yuhan, Yi Hai," and the rest's expressions changed when they saw that. They quickly walked forward with extremely nervous expressions. Big brother, Yi Wushuang, took a step forward and held Yi Qin tightly. The Patriarch of Hell and Daoist Beiyan stepped forward one after another. "I'm fine." Yi Chen wiped the blood from the corner of his lips and revealed a pale smile to everyone. He said, "I've just overexerted myself. I'll be fine after resting for a while." "How is this overexertion?" The Patriarch of Hell looked at him with an extremely complicated expression and sighed softly. "I've already said that without 3 drops of heart blood, the vital energy and blood in your body will dry up day by day. You can't fight any more." At this point, he could not help but shake his head. "However, you didn't listen to my advice. In order to deal with the 8 foreign immortal sects, you forcefully exhausted your remaining vital energy and blood." Daoist Beiyan's expression changed when he heard that. Subsequently, he clasped his fists at Yi Qin. "Fellow Yi, I thank you on behalf of China." Why did Yi Qin disregard his physical condition and insist on defeating the 8 immortal sects? It was none other than to intimidate the foreign civilizations and indirectly display China's deterrent power. "Patriarch, what should we do about Xiao Qin?" Wu Lan said with a trembling voice. "After that exhaustion, the vital energy and blood in his body can dry up at any time." The Patriarch of Hell sighed faintly and said, "When that happens, his body will be crippled unless he possesses it or becomes a ghost cultivator. Are those the only 2 ways?" Su Yuhan carried her son and looked at Yi Qin while trembling. She bit her lips and said, "Yi Qin, take back the heart blood in my body. Perhaps you can stop all of this." "Silly!" Yi Qin took a deep breath in and held her little hand gently. He forced a smile and said, "You'll definitely die if I take back the heart blood in your body. Although I've lost the heart blood, I won't die yet. But my heart aches for you. Su Yuhan could not control her tears. The patriarch of hell seemed to have thought of something. He suddenly looked at Yi Qin. Fellow Yi, did you say that there's something in Yin Su that can heal your injuries? That's right. Yi Qin looked at Taoist Beiyan, who was next to him by instinct. Then he nodded and said, Therefore, I'm determined to go to Yin Su. All right. When the Yin Su tunnel reopens, I'll personally send you in. Taoist Beiyan said with a solemn expression. When the time comes, I'll get the powerhouses of China in Yin Su to help you. That's good too. The patriarch of hell nodded and said to Yi Qin, Fellow Yi, I'll suppress your vital energy and blood in the following days. Don't fight anyone anymore. Especially don't consume your vital energy and blood. All right. Yi Qin could only agree. In the next few days, the entire Earth was discussing the battle at Nine Dragons Bay. Meanwhile, Yi Qin's terrifying battle record was spread to every corner of the world. At that moment, Yi Qin was in the limelight. At that moment, those who were observant realized that Nine Dragons Bay was silent. Yi Qin's news disappeared as well. Various countries used the most secretive methods and technology to spy on the situation at Nine Dragons Bay, but they failed in the end. On the third day, on the fourth day, on the fifth day, on the seventh day, there was still no news of Yi Qin. At that moment, an explosive news spread in the dark. Big news! Mad Southerny has been staying in Nine Dragons Bay for 7 consecutive days and has not shown his face. It's suspected that his injuries have flared up and he's on the verge of death. End of this chapter. Chapter 1434. Whoosh! As soon as the news spread, it spread throughout the world at a terrifying speed, causing an earth-shattering earthquake. What? Mad Southerny is on his deathbed? He's about to die? How is that possible? You have to know that he has only killed over 100 soul formation powerhouses from the 8 immortal sections. He even killed a perfected soul formation powerhouse. What's impossible about it? What if Mad Southerny feels that he doesn't have much time left and wants to buy time for China? That's why he attacked at all costs to intimidate us? If Mad Southerny dies now, it will be an extremely heavy blow to China and the entire Earth. It was as if this conversation appeared in various places at the same time, and many of the powerhouses from the outer realm moved upon hearing the news. Investigate it thoroughly. In an instant, it seemed that the US, England, Japan, and other large countries had issued countless orders to use their hidden power. In the battle 7 days ago, Yi Qin had used his strength to prove everything. At the same time, he had announced China's strength. The foreign immortal sects were afraid of his strength, so they chose to endure it. If he really died, then the foreign immortal sects that they had offended would jump out to take revenge. By then, how could China withstand such pressure? In just a day, many powerhouses from the outer realm and countries around the world moved because of Yi Qin. They sent people to Nine Dragons Bay. Dear Madam Yuan, I'm a minister of the U.S. Senate. I have something to discuss with His Excellency Mad Southerny, Madam Yuan. We've all come because of your reputation. We hope that you can introduce us to Mr. Yi. The entire Nine Dragons Bay was completely surrounded. The scene was even worse than Yi Qin's wedding day. Yi Wen's response to this was the same. I'm sorry my brother is out. He's not at home at the moment. If you want to see him later, come back another day. Because of that, the rumors that Yi Qin was on the verge of death exploded. Looks like Mad Southerny is really dying. Some of the powerhouses from the outer realm keenly sensed that something was wrong. They sneered and said, This brat tried to suppress us earlier. I didn't expect him to die before he could do anything. In my opinion, wouldn't it be better for us to join forces and kill our way into Nine Dragons Bay? No, I suspect that there's a trap. What if we rush in now and find out that it's Mad Southerny's trick to lure us into attacking? What should we do? You're right. Let's wait a little longer. Someone tried to perform a heaven-defying divination technique to steal Yi Qin's birth providence at all costs. However, he suffered a backlash and almost died. This brat's birth providence is so powerful. He almost killed me. In this peaceful world, there was actually an undercurrent of excitement. In Nine Dragons Bay, in a quiet room that was separated by layers of formations, Yi Chen sat quietly on the bed with his legs crossed. There were people around him. If one took a closer look, they would realize that Yi Chen's skin was as dry as tree bark at that moment. From afar, he looked like an old man with one foot in the grave. Xiaoqin, don't die. If you die, you'll leave Yuhan and the 2 kids behind. What about your father and me? Wu Lan ignored the people who were trying to stop her. She ran over and hugged Yi Chen tightly. Tears blurred her eyes as her heart ached. Yi Hai's body was trembling. In the past 7 days, the vital energy and blood in Yi Chen's body were getting weaker and weaker. Today, no one had any hope. Su Yuhan bit her lips and looked at him with determination. Yi Chen, if you die, I won't live alone. She shouted at the top of her lungs. Meng Meng held her head and hugged Yi Chen's thigh tightly. Her tears were like broken pearls. Daddy, I won't allow you to die. Big brother. Qian Qian cried. Her eyes were red, and she was very reluctant. She still remembered that if it were not for Yi Chen, she would still be begging on the street. If it were not for Yi Chen, she would still be in the hands of the immortal palace. Mom, don't be like this. Yi Chen patted Wu Lan's shoulder with trembling hands. He then looked at the people around him and mumbled, all the vital energy and blood in my body are exhausted. I'm afraid I can only choose to possess someone. In this sense, I'm not considered dead. I can only say that I've changed bodies. Don't be so sad. He felt his eyelids getting heavier and heavier. In the end, his gaze landed on Su Yuhan. Don't worry, I won't die, and I don't want you to die. Fellow Yi, if you want to possess someone, the Cauldron Patriarch has already found a few perfect targets for you. The Patriarch of Hell looked at Yi Chen with a grim expression. Just when he was about to speak, he saw his son, Yi Ming, who was next to Su Yuhan, suddenly run toward Yi Chen. Although the little guy was less than a month old, he could already walk even though it had only been a month since he inherited Yi Chen's talent and was fed with the deer demon's milk. On the surface, he looked like a little boy who looked like he was 2 years old. He staggered toward Yi Chen with his chubby little body. The little guy smiled at him as he ran. He extended his chubby little hand as if he wanted to shake Yi Chen's hand. Perhaps because he ran too fast, under everyone's gaze, his body staggered and fell forward, smashing heavily into the wall beside him. Wah! The little guy cried on the spot after being hit. Su Yuhan and the rest hurriedly walked over to pick him up, only to see a small crack on his forehead. Blood was flowing out from it. The most shocking thing was, the blood was golden in color, as if it had been melted. It was dazzling and extremely hot. It faintly contained the might of an emperor, making it impossible for people to look at it. The emperor's blood! The Patriarch of Hell's expression changed completely. As if he had discovered something terrifying, he cried out in shock, "This is the emperor's blood!" At the next moment, before everyone could react, a drop of extremely dense golden blood suddenly shot out from the little guy's body. The drop of golden blood was as resplendent as a small sun. Subsequently, it shot into Yi Chen's body as if it had a life of its own. Under everyone's stunned gazes, Yi Chen's body emitted dazzling golden gleams after absorbing the drop of golden blood. The most shocking thing was that the dried-up vital energy and blood in Yi Chen's body started to stir. His old face was recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. Everyone stared blankly at the scene. Clearly, they did not expect such a strange change to happen. The little guy, who was crying earlier, could not help but giggle and dance when he saw Yi Chen's transformation. This is... Sensing the rapid recovery of vital energy and blood in his body, Yi Chen felt a little dazed. Then he suddenly looked at the little guy who was giggling. That drop of golden blood earlier was this little guy's heart blood. Chapter 1435. Under everyone's gaze, Yi Chen's chest shone with golden light. Yi Chen's chest emitted a golden glow. The glow was getting more and more dazzling. In the end, it was as if he was looking directly at a golden sun. Plop! Plop! A weak heartbeat suddenly sounded in the originally silent room. The heartbeat grew louder and louder. In the end, it was like the roar of a war drum or thunder. In an instant, a terrifying aura gradually awakened in Yi Chen's body. The aura was overbearing and ancient. It was as majestic as a prison, and it carried a supreme aura. It made one's heart palpitate and the depths of one's soul tremble. Bang, bang, bang. Under this pressure, the expressions of quite a number of people in the room changed. All of them were unable to control their bodies as they heavily prostrated on the ground. Even the Patriarch of Hell and Taoist Beiyan were no exception, especially the latter. Extreme waves surged in his heart. One had to know that he was a perfected God transformation stage cultivator, but he could not resist Yi Chen's pressure. The only ones who were not affected were Yi Chen's daughter, son, and Yi Wushuang, who was standing aside. Emperor Blood Reconstruction, the Patriarch of Hell, stared at Yi Chen. At that moment, he was extremely shocked. This is a sign of Emperor Blood Reconstruction, and it's innate Emperor Blood. The so-called Emperor Blood. To cultivators, there was only one kind of emperor, and that was the emperor who lived above the 9 heavens and suppressed the immortals. The Patriarch of Hell did not know why Yi Chen's descendants had emperor blood. However, he was sure that the emperor blood must have been passed down to his descendants by Yi Chen. Did it mean that Yi Chen was an emperor? When he thought of this, he was shocked to the extreme. Shaoqin, what's going on? Yi Hai and Wulan, who were already in despair, could not help but be dumbfounded. Su Yuhan cried tears of joy. Just now, she really thought that something would happen to Yi Chen. Her heart almost broke. The aura in Yi Chen's body was still growing stronger, and his face was no longer as pale as before. Now his entire body was erupting with terrifying vital energy and blood. One could see golden blood flowing through various parts of his body from time to time, emitting divine power. To the Patriarch of Hell, Yi Chen was even more terrifying than before. He could probably kill a late-stage god transformation stage cultivator with his vital energy and blood alone. Why is fellow Ye's aura getting stronger and stronger? The Patriarch of Hell was puzzled as he thought to this point. Logically speaking, Yi Chen's body had almost decayed. Even if he could recover, it would be difficult for him to return to his peak. Among everyone, Yi Wushuang was the only one with a burning smile in his eyes. He's awake. The sealed imperial palace in Brother's body has been reconstructed again. The monarch path was different from ordinary cultivators. They had to light up their own monarch palace within their bodies. This monarch palace had 7 profound entrances: Celestial Being, Immortal Bridge, Jade Lake, Jade Capital, Numinous Sky, Emperor's Throne, and Heavenly Court. An Emperor's primordial spirit guarded the imperial palace. Every time a hidden gate was opened, an even more terrifying power could erupt. If he opened the hidden gate of the Heavenly Court, it would be the time when Yi Chen returned to his peak. During the battle in the immortal world, Big Brother shattered his own Emperor Palace and stimulated his 7 great, profound entrances to erupt with boundless potential. Although he was lucky enough to survive, it also caused a flaw in his body. Yi Wushuang suppressed the joy on his face and looked at Yi Chen. I didn't expect Brother's Imperial Palace to be rebuilt again. Brother is truly reborn this time. Master's Imperial Palace has been rebuilt. He was not the only one. Even the Night Demon Armor and Emperor Brush, the 2 immortal weapons that had once followed Yi Chen, were extremely excited at that moment. Boom! Before everyone could react, a terrifying and extreme power suddenly erupted from Yi Chen's daughter, Mengming's body. In just a few breaths of time, the power actually rose from spirit assembly to beginner stage nascent soul, intermediate stage nascent soul, advanced stage nascent soul, and finally stuck at peak stage nascent soul. The moment Mingming's aura skyrocketed, terrifying auras poured out from Yi Hai, Yiwen Wulan, Yi Chen's younger brother, Yi Xing and Yi Ming. Among them, Yi Hai rose all the way to beginner stage nascent soul. Wulan was at peak stage golden core, while Yiwen was at beginner stage golden core. Meanwhile, Yi Chen's younger brother, Yi Xing and son, Yi Ming, grew 2 inches taller. The former rose to intermediate stage nascent soul, while the latter rose to peak stage nascent soul. This sudden scene caused everyone to be incomparably shocked. It's the power of the bloodline. The Patriarch of Hell cried out involuntarily. The power of the bloodline in their bodies is similar to fellow Yes. At this moment, it has been completely stimulated. The moment that was said, Taoist Beiyan could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. What kind of bloodline can be so terrifying? That was right, it was too terrifying. Even a baby who had been born for less than a month had stepped into peak stage nascent soul. He was only a step away from God transformation stage. How could they, who had only cultivated to God transformation stage after going through thousands of tribulations, endure this? The Patriarch of Hell could not help but glance at Yi Chen by instinct when he heard that. A gleam flashed through his eyes. In the cultivation world, even the geniuses of many super sects that were hailed as rare in 10,000 years would only be able to step into nascent soul in their teens. However, what were these geniuses compared to Yi Chen's children? Thinking to this point, he immediately said, "Fellow Beiyan, we must not let the outside world sense this commotion. Join forces with me to reinforce the formation to ensure that nothing goes wrong." All right. Taoist Beiyan nodded heavily. He immediately took action and set up formations with the Patriarch of Hell in the house. He knew very well that if the outside world found out about the drastic change in Yi Chen's body, it would definitely bring disaster to the Yi family and the entire China. In the next few days, everyone stayed by Yi Chen's side, especially the Patriarch of Hell and Taoist Beiyan. They would reinforce the formation from time to time. Although their minds were exhausted, they still persevered bitterly. It was because everyone knew that when the skyrocketing aura in Yi Chen's body stabilized completely, there would definitely be a tremendous change. Yi Chen's body was still recovering rapidly. The vital energy and blood in his body were becoming more and more exuberant. It was like a churning ocean with thousands of waves. His body would occasionally turn golden, and his heart would sometimes turn into a lava furnace. It was dazzling and resplendent. If one took a closer look, they would discover that there was an extremely dazzling, mysterious golden crystal in the depths of his glabella. It was as deep as a planet in the vast universe, and it contained great terror. Fellow Yi, oh fellow Yi, how many secrets do you have? The Patriarch of Hell, who had witnessed everything with his own eyes, could not calm down at all. He looked at Yi Chen, who had recovered quietly, and mumbled to himself, "Could you really be an immortal king who lives above the 9 heavens? Are you an immortal king descending to the mortal world? Or are you an immortal fetus?" Even though he had lived for close to 10,000 years in his previous life and thought that he was knowledgeable, his state of mind had never been as emotional as it was today. P.S. There's only one chapter today. I've finally filled in the holes that I've been laying for a long time. I'll start killing tomorrow.